Chapter 81. Save me, my father has gone mad. Song Yiming was not in a hurry, as he headed to the Chu family's territory at a leisurely pace. Every time he arrived at one of Chu County's cities, he would let one of the accompanying disciples take control of the city. He brought along as many Nine Swords Mountain disciples as there were cities in Chu County. Compared to Song Pang, who was drowning in anxiety, Song Yiming knew that rushing over was a waste of effort. Given that so many days had passed, the black heart grass had most likely already been used. He was not really thinking about Song Pang, his son. If Chu Yun really had outstanding talent in pill refinement, what he needed to think about now was how to nurture his grandson. At the same time, Song Yiming was waiting for the Qin family's reaction. If the Qin family did not express their stance before they arrived at the Chu family's territory, then this trip would go smoothly. If the Qin family made an appearance, they would face some setbacks. The Qin family had a close relationship with Nine Swords Mountain's great elder Hong Fei, and the great Qin dynasty seemed to have some sort of hidden connection with Nine Swords Mountain. Even he, as the sect master, did not know much about it. That was a matter directly controlled by a few old fogies of Nine Swords Mountain. He did not have the qualifications to interfere. Although he was the sect master, he was not the strongest expert of Nine Swords Mountain. In this world, strength spoke for itself. The Chu family had arrived, and no one from the Qin family had appeared. Song Yiming heaved a sigh of relief. This trip would go smoothly. Chu Tianming and the other elders stood in front of the family's territory and stared at Song Yiming and his son with unsightly expressions. The Qin family had not responded to their request for aid. It was obvious that they did not plan to help. Thinking back to the relationship between the great Qin dynasty and Nine Swords Mountain, Chu Tianming and the others felt dejected. The sect master of Nine Swords Mountain was an expert at the 9th level of the Truth Realm. How could the Chu family resist him? Thus far, the Chu family had yet to cultivate any Truth Realm experts. The Chu family's foundation had just been unearthed. Even the family elders who had received the power of the Truth Realm inheritance had yet to break through to the Truth Realm. Could they commission the Black Moon Tower to act? The price they would have to pay to deal with the sect master of Nine Swords Mountain was something that the entirety of the Chu family could not afford. Could they give the Chu family's foundation as payment to the Black Moon Tower? It was obviously impossible. Chu Yun also received the news and rushed over. She thought of asking that mysterious senior for help. Song Yiming ignored the people of the Chu family entirely. There was not even a single one among them who had cultivated to the Truth Realm. On what basis could they resist him? Moreover, he was the sect master of Nine Swords Mountain. It was a great fortune for the Chu family to become in-laws with him. Looking at things from that perspective, he did not understand why the Chu family was unwilling. However, once he gave this matter a second thought, his heart burned with passion. If the Chu family could not bear to let Chu Yun marry out, and even spurned the opportunity to befriend him, the sect master of the Nine Swords Mountain, then there could only be one reason. Chu Yun's talent in pill refinement was beyond imagination. Her existence was related to the rise of the Chu family. Father, it's her. Song Pang saw Chu Yun rushing over. He pointed excitedly at Chu Yun, his eyes burning with passion. Little beauty, you won't be able to escape from me. Song Pang was extremely excited. Shut up, Pa. Song Yiming suddenly shouted angrily and slapped Song Pang's face. Song Pang was completely stunned. He covered his swollen face and looked at his father in a daze. He did not understand why his father would suddenly hit him. The members of the Chu family were also stunned. At this moment, Song Yiming's heart was filled with terror. His entire body was trembling. He was so weak that he could not help but kneel on the ground. When others saw him like this, they thought that he was trembling with anger. Father, why did you hit me? Song Pang looked wronged. Pa. Another slap landed on Song Pang's face. Song Yiming said angrily, hit you? You are coveting Miss Chu. Song Yiming roared and slapped Song Pang again. Why don't you piss off and look at yourself first? Are you worthy of Miss Chu? Chu Tianming and the others were dumbfounded. What was going on with the sect master of Nine Swords Mountain? Why was he beating his own son? Look, his son's face was swollen. If he continued to hit him, the latter's face would look like a pig's head. Chu Yun was overjoyed when she saw this. It must be that mysterious senior who had warned the Nine Swords Mountain sect master. Even the Nine Swords Mountain sect master was forced to admit defeat. That mysterious senior was too powerful. He had to be at the Emperor realm. Song Pang's head was buzzing from the beating he was receiving. He was dumbfounded as he looked at his father. What was going on? Why was he being beaten? He had never been beaten like this since he was young. Dad, I'm your son, Song Pang cried. Slap. Song Yiming slapped him again. To those watching, it seemed like Song Yiming felt that he had not given his son a proper beating, as he kept hitting him. He cursed, why did I give birth to a B***starred like you? Why are you so obsessed with marrying Miss Chu? You're a piece of sh*t. Miss Chu is such a precious flower. Do you deserve to be with her? Why did I give birth to a useless thing like you? Don't you have any sense of shame? Since you're a piece of sh*t, just behave like a good piece of sh*t. Why did you come out to stink up the place? Your presence taints Miss Chu's eyes. You're a piece of sh*t, yet you actually dared to covet Miss Chu. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Where's your conscience? Why did you turn out like this? Huh! Song Yiming shouted as he beat Song Pang up. Everyone in the Chu family was petrified. Nine Swords Mountain Sect Master, did you lose your mind? Why were you talking about your son like this? If your son was a piece of sh*t, were you not also a piece of sh*t? Moreover, you were an old piece of sh*t. Chu Yun's mouth was wide open and her face was filled with shock. Was the mysterious senior so powerful? Even the sect master of Nine Swords Mountain seemed terrified to the point of abandoning his dignity. The one who felt the most pain was Song Pang. He was completely dumbfounded. His head was buzzing, and tears and snot were continuously flowing out. His head was swollen, and his face was beyond recognition. What pained his heart even more was that the one who had done this to him and humiliated him was his own father. I'm definitely not his biological son. Doesn't your conscience hurt? You're a piece of sh*t, yet you actually wanted to defile a pure flower. Do you have any shame? Why are you so thick-skinned? Why don't you piss off? With your pathetic appearance, do you think you're worthy of her? Song Yiming's entire body was trembling as he continued to beat up Song Pang crazily. His attacks were getting more and more vicious and heavier. Song Pang's head had swelled to twice its original size. His face was so round that one could no longer even see his facial features. Help! Help! My father has gone crazy. Song Pang's muffled cries could be heard as he struggled to call for help. He was panicking. His father might have really gone crazy. If his father did not stop now, he felt that he might even die. No one noticed that cold sweat was breaking out on Song Yiming's forehead. A terrifying pressure covered his body and showed no signs of abating. Song Yiming did not dare to stop. He could only grit his teeth and hit his son harder and harder. The Chu family was terrifying. Soon after he stepped into the Chu family's territory, a mysterious and terrifying pressure descended on him. The meaning it implied was obvious. It was a warning. What shocked Song Yiming was that this pressure was 100, no, 1,000 times stronger than those old fogies from Nine Swords Mountain. He panicked. His only way out of this was to take action personally and teach his son a lesson. He was saving himself and his son as well. He thought of many things. It was no wonder the great Qin dynasty chose not to co-opt the Chu family's territory and make them their vassals. It was all because there was a terrifying existence hidden in the Chu family. Perhaps the Chu family was a trap set up by some mysterious powerful existence. Chapter 82, Loss of Morality or Distortion of a Father's Love. It was too tragic. Not only was Song Pang physically battered, but his soul was also in turmoil from his father's beating. Every time Song Yiming opened his mouth, Song Pang would be called a piece of sh*t, or asked to piss off or take a good look at himself. Chu Zan was speechless. Was there something wrong with the head of the Nine Swords Mountain sect master? I was just pressuring you and giving you a warning not to act impudently. Why did you beat up your own son crazily? He even humiliated him verbally. Chu Zan suspected that his son might not be his own. Everyone in the Chu family was dumbfounded. Chu Tianming and the others were originally extremely angry and disgusted with Song Pang's desire to marry Chu Yun. However, his current image and condition evoked feelings of pity from them. What a pitiful fellow! He was tortured to such an extent by his own father. Everyone seriously suspected that Song Pang was not his biological son. In fact, he might even have been picked up from a random rubbish heap somewhere. At this moment, his son was being used as a punching bag to vent the anger in his heart. Chu Yun could not bear to look at Song Pang's miserable appearance, especially when she heard Song Pang's muffled cries for help. Song Pang raised a hand with great difficulty. Help, help me. Crack, the hand was broken. When the Chu family members heard the crack, their hands trembled. The sect master of Nine Swords Mountain had gone crazy. Should they stop him? What if he went crazy and attacked them? No one here could beat him. However, if he killed his son and woke up from his madness, would he blame them? Chu Tianming cursed in his heart. What was going on with Nine Swords Mountain? Why did they choose a crazy guy to become their sect master? Could it be that something had gone wrong with his cultivation recently? It was very possible. If you keep hitting him, he'll die, Chu Yun spoke up carefully. Song Yiming instantly shot her a grateful gaze, and the pressure around him finally dissipated. He kicked Song Pang. Aren't you going to thank Miss Chu? Thank you. Tears streamed down Song Pang's face. His facial features could no longer be seen clearly, and his whole body had swelled up into a round ball. His heart had suffered an immense amount of trauma. This day would be a nightmare that forever haunted him. Song Yiming said sincerely, Miss Chu, don't worry. This piece of sh*t will never appear in front of you again. I will bring this b** back and discipline him properly. Although Song Pang looked very miserable, fortunately, his life was not in any danger. He could recover after spending some time recuperating. Actually, you don't have to be so ruthless. Chu Yun looked a little apologetic. The deterrence of that mysterious senior was too terrifying. He had frightened the Nine Swords Mountain sect master to the point of insanity. Thank you. Song Pang was filled with tears of gratitude. Chu Yun's face flushed red. It was all because of her that he had ended up in such a miserable state. In addition, he even had to thank her for intervening, so she felt embarrassed. Goodbye. I'll go back and discipline my son now. Song Yiming took his leave with Song Pang in tow. It was over. Song Pang's vision went black when he heard that. Discipline my son. Was he going to FC King torture me to death? He immediately fainted. Song Yiming had arrived threateningly, but ended up carrying his deformed son back in a panicked state. He should have been angry at the person behind the scenes. Yet, despite being humiliated, and despite having his own son into a deformed state, Song Yiming did not harbor any grudges toward this person. On the contrary, he was filled with respect and reverence for the person behind the scenes. It must be because that senior showed mercy. That's why I feel grateful and have a good impression of him. That has to be it. Song Yiming felt somewhat puzzled, but he did not feel that it was out of place either. Chu Zan had planted a soul seal on Song Yiming without the latter's knowledge. Since Chu Zan did not exert his will upon the latter, therefore, the latter had no idea that he had been controlled by someone. As long as it did not directly contradict his thoughts, Song Yiming would not notice the presence of the soul seal. He only mistakenly believed that Chu Zan had shown mercy, which was why he had respect and a good impression of him. Chu Zan had made Song Yiming his chess piece. It was still unknown when or whether this chess piece would be activated. Before the soul seal was activated, Song Yiming would have no idea that the soul seal had been planted. His mind and actions would not change at all. The only change he would be able to sense was the increased respect and reverence for this mysterious senior. There was no way Song Yiming would doubt himself because of this minor emotional shift. This was the terrifying thing about the soul seed seal. The sect master of Nine Swords Mountain had an esteemed status. With a stomp of his foot, many in the southern region would tremble. Although he was not the strongest expert of Nine Swords Mountain, his status and influence were significant. During a critical moment, he could still play a significant role. However, Chu Zan had casually made him a chess piece. He did not really care if it could be used or what role it could play. Song Yiming quickly left. The Nine Swords Mountain disciples who controlled the Chu County cities were all stunned when they saw the sect master carrying an object that did not look like a human. Looking at the object's attire, it seemed to be junior brother Song Pang. What was going on? Retreat. Return to Nine Swords Mountain. Song Yiming ordered. The Chu family was terrifying. They could not afford to offend that person. Moreover, the other party kept such a low profile. It was obvious that they did not want to attract attention. Therefore, he had to keep it a secret. Song Yiming did not want that terrifying existence to be unhappy with him and come looking for him to kill him. Given that terrifying existence's strength, even the combined might of Nine Swords Mountain would be insufficient against him. If he was not careful, Nine Swords Mountain would be destroyed. Sect Master, what's going on? The Nine Swords Mountain's disciples looked at the deformed Song Pang and asked curiously. What do you mean what's going on? This little b** is shameless. I have to teach him a good lesson. Song Yiming said angrily. The Nine Swords Mountain's disciples shut up. No matter how miserable Song Pang was, this was not a matter they could interfere with. Song Yiming recalled all of Nine Sword Mountain's disciples from Chu County, and the territory returned to the control of the Chu family. Great Qin Dynasty's Imperial Palace. Qin Qian looked at the information in her hands in disbelief. Song Yiming did not die. His son might not look like a human now, but to cultivators, it was not a life-threatening injury. As long as the kid's foundation was not damaged, the injuries would be classified as superficial at most. Was that handsome 13th young master of the Chu family so kind and merciful? Qin Qian's eyes lit up. Could she go and see him then? Since he was soft-hearted toward the Nine Swords Mountain sect master, surely he would not make things too difficult for her, right? However, what if, thinking this, Qin Qian could only sigh. She could not go to the Chu family, after all. What if he detained her and made her a servant girl? The fairy tale of the great Qin Empress running off to become a servant girl. She was not mentally ill, and she was not infatuated with him to such an extent. The elders of the Chu family felt like they were in a dream. They believed that the Chu family was in great danger, so they were pessimistic and prepared to accept the fact that Chu Yun would be forced to marry Song Pang. Who would have thought that it would end like this? The sect master of Nine Swords Mountain suddenly went crazy. He beat up and humiliated his own son like a madman, to the extent that he no longer even looked human. Was it the loss of morality or the distortion of fatherly love that caused this tragedy? Chapter 83, Hu Quan's Final Madness. Chu Tianming had a feeling that Song Yiming's sudden fit of madness might have had something to do with Chu Yun. How was that possible though? He had to ask her in private. Do you think it's possible that it was due to the Empress's deterrence? A family elder asked in a low voice. He had been brought back from the Great Qian dynasty by Qin Qian, so he had personally witnessed the Great Qin Empress' power. That can't be. Even though the Great Qin Empress is powerful, the Nine Swords Mountain sect master wouldn't be so afraid of her to the point of doing something so crazy, right? Chu Tianming expressed his doubts. Furthermore, the relationship between the Great Qin dynasty and Nine Swords Mountain was extraordinary. Nine Swords Mountain was still the main force guarding the borders of the Great Qin dynasty. On the basis of this relationship, they would not treat the sect master of Nine Swords Mountain like this, regardless of the reason. It was even less likely that they would risk ruining their good relationship with Nine Swords Mountain on account of the Chu family. It's hard to say. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have been able to imagine the might of the Empress. That family elder's expression was extremely solemn. Hearing what he said, Chu Tianming and the others were suspicious. Could it really be that the Empress had really been secretly intimidating the other party? Was she still thinking about the old times? Was she still thinking about Chu Yuan? That bastard Chu Yuan. At the thought of Chu Yuan, Chu Tianming could not help but roar in anger. Chu Yun stuck out her tongue. Third brother was not around either. If he were to return one day, the situation would be very uncomfortable. The matter of the Nine Swords Mountain sect master forcefully seeking Chu Yun's hand in marriage for his son was like a farce. It did not cause too much of a stir, and any commotion about the matter quickly died down. Those who were well informed only knew that the Nine Swords Mountain sect master had come with great momentum, but had returned to Nine Swords Mountain with his deformed son. As for what exactly transpired, no one really knew. They only knew that Song Pang had been beaten to a pulp by his father. Many people guessed that it was probably because of the Great Qin's Empress. Great Qin Dynasty, Purple Moon County. The former Purple Moon Kingdom was now just the Purple Moon County of the Great Qin Dynasty. The county governor was the former ruler of the Purple Moon Kingdom. This person was very tactful. After surrendering, he did not have any thoughts of rebelling or wanting to become independent. He listened attentively to Qin Qian's orders and became a capable subordinate of the Great Qin Empress. Purple Moon County was also placed under his jurisdiction. Even though he was no longer the ruler of a kingdom, and was only a county governor, he was still the most powerful person in Purple Moon County. In a forest somewhere in Purple Moon County, a desolate figure walked into a damp, dark cave. His eyes were filled with hatred. There was a savage-looking scar on his face which stretched from left to right, covering his face. The wound that resulted in this scar would likely have been enough to kill him had he not been lucky. Hu Quan. He had once been the leader of the Purple Moon Kingdom's heretic cult. Now, he was in dire straits. The heretic cult was still present in the Purple Moon County, but Hu Quan was no longer the leader of the Purple Moon Kingdom's heretic cult. He was not one of the higher-ups. Instead, he was a marginal figure. Almost everyone had forgotten about him, the former leader of the Purple Moon Kingdom's heretic cult. After the Great Qin dynasty annexed the Purple Moon Kingdom, the heretic cult suffered a massive blow. He was despised by the evil imperial court, who felt that he was useless. As such, they excluded him when they started rebuilding the heretic cult. Hu Quan's backer had already abandoned him and chosen someone else. The new sect leader had taken over, and would first make an example out of the old sect leader. Hu Quan had thought that even if he had not contributed much, he had still been a loyal servant. However, despite serving the evil imperial court for so long, his situation and status had greatly changed. He was no longer the sect leader of the Purple Moon Kingdom's heretic cult. He had wanted to go to the evil imperial court to cultivate and break through to the Unity realm as soon as possible, but he was expelled by his former backer upon arrival. His backer berated him for his uselessness and blamed him for the loss of his own personal reputation. He was then told that he did not deserve to stay in the evil imperial court. Among all of the former heretic cult sect leaders, Hu Quan had the most miserable ending. After the other sect leaders left their positions, they would always head to the evil imperial court to cultivate and become a member of the evil imperial court, even if they just ended up as pawns. He was the only one who was expelled and abandoned. The root of all of this originated from the Purple Moon Kingdom's heretic cult, which had almost been completely annihilated. As the sect leader, he had been extremely incompetent. This made the backer behind him become a joke among his peers. Hu Quan was indignant and furious. He thought about taking revenge on his backer, but the other party was too powerful and had too many subordinates. How could a mere peak stage Void Realm expert like him take revenge on such a powerhouse? After thinking about it, he decided that the root of his downfall was all due to the Chu family. Thus, his hatred toward the Chu family grew stronger and stronger, to the point that he was now on the verge of losing his mind. He had even been robbed recently. As the sect leader of the heretic cult, who would have dared to rob him back then? Hu Quan was injured, and he felt that his life had no future. He had also thought about going to the evil king's palace before dying and making a name for himself among the circle of heretic cultivators. His life would not have been in vain then. However, Hu Quan did not dare to do so. He still respected the evil king, so he could not bring himself to do it. Therefore, he started making long-term plans again. He wanted to take revenge. He wanted to make his name resound in the southern region. Taking out the blood spirit bead, Hu Quan's eyes shone with hatred. Chu family. He was going to go all out to take revenge on the Chu family. Through his unceasing efforts, he had already found a method by which he could activate the blood spirit bead. The materials were all prepared. Now all he needed to do was act. Looking in the direction of Chu County, Hu Quan gnashed his teeth. If it had not been for the Chu family, how could he have ended up in such a miserable state? The root cause of everything was the Chu family. Hu Quan thought that once he activated the blood spirit bead, the Chu family's territory would be contaminated, which would transform its residents into devils that would be hunted down and killed by the experts of the southern region. His fame and notoriety would then spread throughout the southern region. The Chu family, once one of the three great aristocratic families of the Qin kingdom, would have been destroyed by his hands after being transformed into devils. This would make him even more famous than those who barged into the evil king's palace. Even if he died, it would all be worth it. Hu Quan examined his body's internal injuries. He did not have much time left. Even if he died, he would drag the Chu family down with him. Hu Quan had made up his mind. After briefly recuperating, he then rushed to Chu County. He had to hide himself. He had to enter the Chu family's territory stealthily and secretly activate the blood spirit bead. The devilish blood energy would contaminate the Chu family's territory, causing its residents to transform into devils. Once that happened, all of the transformed devils would be killed. This was the ironclad law of the human race. No force was an exception to this. Even the evil imperial court would kill the devils as soon as they found them. Anyone who was contaminated by the devilish blood energy would become vassals and servants of the demon race. They did not belong to the human race anymore. Since they were not human beings, they would no longer be allowed to live in the human territory. Moreover, transformed devils were mostly cruel. Their personalities would change, and they had no humanity to speak of. As a person responsible for spreading the devilish blood energy, he would also be hunted down. In the human race, no force could tolerate scum like him. However, Hu Quan did not care. He wanted to be the first person to spread the devilish blood energy in the southern region. Even if he was condemned for generations, so what? At least in the history of the cultivation world, his name, Hu Quan, would be left behind. He would have taken his revenge and gained a reputation. What was there to be unsatisfied about? Hu Quan's eyes were filled with madness. He wanted everyone to know that even if he died, he would drag the culprit down with him. In order to avoid any accidents, Hu Quan had been extremely careful along the way, specifically going out of his way to avoid the Black Moon Tower. He was afraid that news that he possessed the Blood Spirit Pearl would be leaked. Finally, he arrived in Chu County. He looked in the direction of the Chu family's territory. He would take action tonight. This is my final madness. Chapter 84. Subduing the Devil's Soul with One Hand. After Song Yiming's visit, the Chu family once again realized the importance of strength in the cultivation world. Everyone began to put all of their effort into training, hoping to make the Chu family rise to prominence once again. The defenses around the family's territory returned to their normal state. A Spirit Realm Guard captain led the other guards to patrol the family's territory. The heretic cult was no longer much of a threat. Since most external threats were basically eliminated, there was no need to be on high alert at all times. The defenses around the ancestral residence, on the other hand, became even tighter instead. At least one Unity Realm family elder would be patrolling the ancestral residence. After all, the Chu family's ancient site was of great importance, and they could not afford to lose anything inside it. The other family elders were all cultivating in seclusion inside the Chu family's ancient site. They took turns patrolling every 3 days. As Chu Yun continued refining medicinal pills, and more of the Chu family's foundation was unearthed, 3 more Unity Realm experts were added to the Chu family's forces. Everyone in the Chu family could envision the eventual rise of the Chu family to becoming a truly great aristocratic family. The fact that they were ostracized by the Qin family and had not become a vassal of the great Qin dynasty was perhaps a good thing. At the very least, Chu County was still under the control of the Chu family. The resources the family elders needed for cultivation could be obtained by selling pills. Chu Tianming had already selected a few of the more talented juniors of the Chu family to study pill refinement under Chu Yun. Chu Yun could not be the only one refining all the pills, after all. Someone to refine the lower-level pills and, hopefully, the Chu family would gradually form a pill refinement system and foundation that would herald the rise of the Chu family. Outside the Chu family grounds, a figure silently appeared. In his hand was a bead. At this moment, the bead seemed to be melting as it turned scarlet red. There seemed to be fresh blood flowing within it. If one looked carefully, one would discover that there was a faint figure within the dark brown blood. The blood spirit bead had already been activated. After 15 minutes, it would turn into devilish blood energy, contaminating the entirety of the Chu family's territory. Hu Quan's expression was malevolent, and his eyes were filled with madness. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept past him. Before Hu Quan could react, he felt his body being lifted up and, the very next moment, he found himself inside a small courtyard. Chu Zan frowned as he looked at Hu Quan. This guy had not made any movements for such a long time despite having long since obtained the fake map of the Chu family's territory that he had provided. He had almost forgotten about him. He had not expected the other party to suddenly appear. Moreover, something was very wrong. Looking at the demonic blood bead in Hu Quan's hand, he could feel a powerful and dirty aura from it, as well as a dense demonic aura. A blood bead condensed from the blood energy of the demon race. Moreover, it was not ordinary demon race blood. This guy wanted to give the Chu family a vicious blow without making a sound. Hu Quan was shocked. How did he come here? He had not been able to resist at all. What kind of strength did this person have? However, it was too late. The blood spirit bead had already been activated. The other party could not stop the tragedy from unfolding. Hu Quan was pleased with himself. Swallow them. Chu Zan waved his hand and instructed the spirit-devouring flower to swallow Hu Quan. As for the blood spirit bead, it was naturally swallowed as well. To the spirit-devouring flower, the demonic blood was a great tonic. It was not affected by the demonic blood energy's filth. The spirit-devouring flower's roots instantly spread out and swallowed Hu Quan. In an instant, Hu Quan disappeared from the world. Boom! The blood spirit bead suddenly erupted with powerful might. A figure with a short horn on its head and ears sticking up appeared with a ferocious expression on its face. It shook off the devouring spirit flower to the side. Chu Zan's expression changed slightly. It was the soul of a demon race expert. With a wave of his hand, the heaven-revolving universe array formation covered the small courtyard. Su Shaner and Ding Yu were startled by the powerful demonic might and opened their eyes to look. Devil soul! Su Shaner cried out in surprise. Kakaka, this venerable self has finally emerged. Human Jr., kneel before me. The devil soul looked at Sushoner and its smile became even more evil. Human girl, you are too beautiful. Kneel down and let this venerable self vent his desires. If I am satisfied, I'll let you keep your consciousness. Boom, the devil soul's aura erupted and a powerful aura swept over the courtyard. It was infinitely close to the heaven realm. It was either a peak stage supreme realm, or the half-step heaven realm, devil soul. When the other party had been at his peak, he was probably a heaven realm demon race expert. However, he had been seriously injured, and even his devil soul's realm fell by a level. Sushoner's face was pale. Could Chuzan deal with such a powerful devil soul? Kid, this venerable self needs a new body. Yours will do fine. The devil soul looked at Chuzan and laughed. It pounced over, trying to seize Chuzan's body. HMPH, impudent. Chuzan snorted coldly and raised his hand to press down. Mysterious symbols spread out, forming a special domain. Heaven sealing forbidden technique. If the other party had been a full-fledged heaven realm expert, Chuzan would have been afraid and relied on the universe revolving formation to trap the other party before escaping. However, it was only a devil soul, so he did not take it seriously at all. With the many methods at his disposal, as well as the divine weapon and Tao weapon that the system had rewarded him with, it was not a problem for him to suppress a devil soul. Moreover, this devil soul had not even reached the heaven realm. It was not an exaggeration to say that, within the supreme realm, he feared no one. As soon as the heaven sealing forbidden technique was used, the devil soul instantly felt his own power being restricted. He could no longer use his domain power. What shocked him even more was that all of his power, including his secret techniques, were no longer working. He even felt that his devil soul was losing consciousness. How could this be? Who was he? How could he be so powerful? Was this place not the southern region within the northern zone? Mo Tuo was shocked. He could only watch his soul be compressed. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. I escaped with my life during the invasion of the southern region, but I'm actually going to meet my end here. Why am I not in the southern region? Why? Who brought me out of the southern region? Mo Tuo roared in his heart. He wanted to struggle, but it was completely useless. Back then, when he invaded the southern region of the northern zone, he did not die in that shocking battle. He was lucky enough to escape with a strand of his devil soul. However, he had not expected to die so soon after finally re-emerging. Under the shocked gazes of Sushoner and Ding Yu, that powerful and boundless devil soul was actually suppressed by Chuzan with a wave of his hand. It seemed so simple, almost like killing a mosquito. Sushoner and Ding Yu were deeply shocked. Chuzan's strength was beyond their wildest imagination. Chuzan looked at the compressed devil soul in his palm. He wondered whether the devil soul was related to the demons that had fought in the war in the Asura ancient land. A mere wisp of his soul was already so powerful. When he was at his peak, he probably was not considered a weakling among the heaven realm experts, right? Should he kill it directly? Chuzan hesitated. It would be a pity to kill such a powerful devil soul just like that. However, to seal it, he had to suppress it personally. There seemed to be no Buddhism in this world. Otherwise, he would have converted this devil soul and turned it into his loyal servant. Given Chuzan's current strength, the success rate of forcefully planting a soul seal on the devil soul was not high. After all, the devil soul's realm was much higher. Chuzan frowned and thought about ways to deal with the devil soul. It was very likely that this was a devil race expert who had invaded the southern region back then. In that case, he probably knew many secrets about that ancient war with the demons. Especially about whether there were any traitors among the human race. Due to this, Chuzan did not want to kill the devil soul. Chapter 85, 3 Lives Buddhist Scripture and the World-Cleansing Glazed Pagoda. Just as Chuzan was about to slice the devil soul into several pieces to weaken the devil soul's power so that he could control them one by one, a system notification rang out in his mind. The host suppressed the heaven realm devil soul with one hand and has been rewarded with the 3 Lives Buddhist Scripture and the World-Cleansing Glazed Pagoda. Heaven realm devil soul. Sure enough, the system had recognized it as a heaven realm devil soul. Based on this revelation, he knew that when this devil soul was at its peak, it was a heaven realm expert. Chuzan examined the reward. The 3 Lives Buddhist Scripture was a Buddhist cultivation manual. There did not seem to be any Buddhist sects in this world, and Chuzan had not heard or read about any records of Buddhist sects in the past either. At least up until now, there were none in the southern region, including the entire northern zone. Chuzan was uncertain as to whether there were any in the other zones. The Three Lives Buddhist scripture is a Buddhist cultivation manual. It's divided into the past burning lamp scripture, the present Tathagata scripture, and the future Maitreya scripture. The three scriptures contain many Buddhist divine abilities and cultivation techniques. After Chuzan read the Three Lives Buddhist scriptures, he hesitated for a moment and decided to accept the indoctrination. Although he had mastered Buddhist techniques, he was not a real monk. He just decided to cultivate one additional path. After comprehending the Three Lives Buddhist scripture, Chuzan's body emitted a vast amount of Buddhist light. When the Buddhist light shone on the devil's soul, sizzling sounds could be heard. The devil's soul was like snow melting under the rays of the scorching sun. Ding Yu and Su Shan'er were stunned. At this moment, Chuzan exuded a majestic and pure aura, as if he was cleansing one's mind and soul. That golden light seemed to contain some sort of mysterious power. Chuzan retracted the Buddhist light. The Three Lives Buddhist scripture was exceptionally effective against the demon race. It had a powerful restraining effect on the devil's soul. More importantly, the power of the Buddhist light would allow him to convert others. Chuzan now had a way to deal with the devil's soul. With a flip of his palm, a small 7-story pagoda appeared. The 7-story pagoda shone with lustrous light, and looked like it could purify and cleanse all the filth in the world. World-purifying glazed pagoda, a supreme treasure of the Buddhist path. It could purify the filth in the world, purify demonic chi, and turn it all into pure Buddhist power. It could also suppress all demons and monsters. The world-purifying glazed pagoda had a unique ability, which was to convert the suppressed demons into Buddhists. Chuzan threw the devil's soul into the first level of the world-purifying glazed pagoda and casually placed the glazed pagoda in a corner of the universe space. When the devil's soul was converted, he would have one more loyal Buddhist disciple under him. It would even be one converted from the demon race. At this moment, Chuzan could not help but wonder if he should impart Buddhist cultivation techniques. Buddhist cultivation techniques had a strong restraining effect on the demon race. Once it spread, the demon race would seek him out to retaliate, right? In fact, they would probably even wish they could swallow him alive. Chuzan was not in a hurry to spread Buddhist cultivation techniques though. He would decide after he became stronger. Moreover, even if he wanted to spread Buddhist cultivation techniques, he had to deal with it properly. He could not create some hypocritical baldy monks. If he spread the Buddhist cultivation techniques, would he not end up becoming the Buddha of this world? If he stayed in seclusion and spread Buddhism by becoming a sage-like ancestor, the rewards he would receive from the system for that would not be bad, right? Thinking this, Chuzan was moved. However, in order to spread Buddhism, he needed a suitable candidate. At the very least, the candidate's innate talent could not be poor. As such, the task of spreading Buddhism could not be carried out for the time being. He could only wait for the right time. Chuzan glanced at Su Shan'er and Ding Yu, whose faces were still filled with shock. He waved his hand and said, "Don't make a big fuss about it. It's just a weak devil soul." Su Shan'er took a deep breath. Sir's strength was beyond imagination. Even such a powerful devil soul was easily suppressed. His strength should have at least reached the heaven realm, right? Ding Yu was even more excited. Master is indeed powerful. I must work hard to cultivate and strive to break through the first stage of the way of the sword as soon as possible. He felt that he was about to break through the first stage of the way of the sword. The image of his childhood sweetheart in his heart had gradually faded away. Ding Yu believed that it would not be long before he could completely forget her. He would then be able to climb out off the sea of love and misery and focus solely on the way of the sword. The more he cultivated, the less he missed his sweetheart. Ding Yu found that his comprehension of the sword Tao became deeper and deeper, and he became more and more focused on cultivating the sword Tao. His master was right. Only by breaking through the 3 stages of the way of the sword would he be able to tread upon the path of the supreme sword. Ding Yu's gaze turned resolute. After suppressing the devil's soul, Chuzan's days returned to normal. Chuzan listened to Su Shan'er's daily briefings about the happenings in the southern region. There were still heretics in the Great Qin dynasty causing trouble, but they were unable to cause any serious damage. The conflict between the Great Qian dynasty and the evil imperial court had already calmed down, and they were no longer fighting each other. For now, there were no signs of them joining forces to deal with the Great Qin dynasty. The conflict between the evil imperial court and the Great Qian dynasty was far too deep-seated. Unless they were faced with existential crises, it was virtually impossible for them to join forces. Moreover, the relationship between the Great Qin dynasty and Nine Swords Mountain was extraordinary. Unless they managed to rope in one of the remaining two sects, the combined forces of the evil imperial court and the Great Qian dynasty might not be able to win. Let me out, damn it. Inside the first story of the world-cleansing glazed pagoda, Motuo was trapped by golden chains. Buddhist light swirled around his body, continuously corroding and enlightening him. The rolling demonic chi around his devil soul was constantly being suppressed. Motuo was shocked. He sensed a mysterious power continuously corroding him, and this power even had a strong restraining effect on his demonic power. He was a heaven realm devil soul, and his demonic power was powerful. Yet that vast golden light could actually suppress him. The restraining effect of any kind of power on another was usually not absolute and, in many cases, opposing powers often mutually restrained each other. There were definitely cultivation techniques among the human race which could restrain demonic power. However, the restraining effect of those cultivation techniques were not too strong. Moreover, the so-called restraining effect would only appear when there was not much difference in strength between the two parties. If one's strength was stronger than the other's, the restraining effect would be greatly reduced. However, the restraining effect of this mysterious power was too strong. Motuo felt that if he wanted to suppress this restraining effect, he needed to be at least 2 minor realms higher. When demons encountered this kind of power against an opponent of the same realm, they would be easily suppressed. They would have no chance of winning whatsoever. Motuo was very shocked. When did such a powerful and mysterious power appear among the human race? Could this be a new cultivation method? If it had just been the golden light eroding his devil soul, Motuo would still be able to hold out for a period of time. He would not feel so hopeless. What gave him a splitting headache was that he felt extremely uncomfortable. In his ears, in his consciousness, and in his soul, there were continuous murmurs. These murmurs were very strange. They actually interfered with his consciousness and thoughts. It was too terrifying. Motuo was terrified. He was very worried that, if this continued, would he be tortured by the murmurs until he went crazy. In the midst of all the murmurs, there was only one sentence he understood: put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. Arg, let me out. Human brat, do you want to start a war between our two races? Given the might of the demon race, once the war starts, even the combined forces of the 5 zones of the human race might not be able to face us. Motuo kept shouting and threatening. In the end though, he was scared. Let me go, I'm begging you, I can't take it anymore. Stop that voice, I'm going to collapse. Master, can I call you master? Let me go, I'll acknowledge you as my master and be your servant, okay? Master, please let Motuo go. In the end, Motuo cried and called him master. Chapter 86, The World's First Buddha. Chuzan looked at Motuo, who was begging for mercy, unmoved. After this period of erosion, 1/3 of Motuo's devil soul had been transformed into a Buddha soul. The Buddha soul exuded a dignified golden light. He looked like an eminent monk who had attained the Tao. Converting a devil expert into a Buddhist, just thinking about it gave him a sense of accomplishment. Looking at Motuo, who was half demon and half Buddha, Chuzan started having some new ideas. What if he turned the demon race into a Buddhist race? Just thinking about it made him excited. This was equivalent to directly controlling a powerful race, or even creating a new race altogether. From that point on, there would be no demon race in this world, only the Buddhist race. If he really accomplished this feat, the system's reward would definitely be beyond his wildest imagination. Still, he had to take things one step at a time. He could not rush things. After Motuo was converted, he would be able to better understand the situation of the demon race before slowly making plans. Thinking that he would soon have a devout Buddhist disciple under him, Chuzan became extremely excited. Once Motuo was converted, he would no longer be called Motuo but Buddha. The first Buddha in this world. If this world did not have a Buddha, Chuzan would be the first Buddha and the true Buddha. The devil Buddha would then be the first Buddha to be converted. In truth, although Chuzan was the Buddha, he was not really a Buddha, which was why the devil Buddha would be the true first Buddha. Chuzan waited for Motuo to become a Buddha. He took out the myriad heavenly mirror and connected it to Rencheng again. He wanted to find out if there was a Buddhist sect in the 9 zones and 50 regions. Of course, as an extremely powerful big shot in the myriad realms, everything in the 9 zones and 50 regions should be under his control. As such, Chuzan did not ask directly. Instead, he simply recited a few Buddhist scriptures and revealed some information about Buddhism. Ren Changhai's face was filled with shock and astonishment. From his reaction, Chu Zan immediately understood that there were no Buddhas in the 9 zones and 50 regions. Otherwise, it was impossible for Ren Chang not to recognize the scriptures. Buddhism was quite unique, after all. Back inside the world-cleansing glazed pagoda, Mo Tuo was still crying and begging for mercy. He felt that he was about to go crazy. The erosion of the golden light was definitely a problem, but the murmurs were far more terrifying. The murmurs were filled with a strange power. However, even if the strange power did not exist, no one could stand having murmurs ringing in one's ears all day long. Had they been ordinary murmurs, he might have been able to seal off his 5 senses to avoid hearing or sensing the murmurs. However, the murmurs seemed to be reciting scriptures straight into his soul. There was simply no way to block or eliminate them. It was simply terrifying. Chu Zan suspected that the enlightenment of Buddhism actually depended on the constant nagging and mumbling, which would make people break down before being enlightened. Who could FC King stand it? There was a constant buzzing sound in Mo Tuo's ears. In addition, the murmurs directly spoke into his consciousness and soul. Mo Tuo's cries for mercy were useless. As such, he turned around and started cursing Chu Zan again, as if he was trying to anger Chu Zan and get him to kill him off directly. Those murmurs were too terrifying. Over time, for some reason, Mo Tuo would occasionally find himself reciting a Buddhist scripture. It was completely involuntary. He knew that his thoughts and consciousness were starting to be affected. Occasionally, he would find himself lowering his head and reciting the mantra, Amitabha. It was too terrifying. It had been more than a month since the 9 Swords Mountain sect master Song Yiming tried to force the Chu family to marry Chu Yun to his son. After hearing the news, most people threw it to the back of their minds and did not investigate the reason behind it. Most people thought that Song Yiming had returned empty-handed due to the Great Qin's Empress' interference. Evil King Palace. The current evil king sat on his throne. His expression was dark and gloomy. Ever since he had been heavily injured by Qin Qian, his temper had become much more irritable. The evil king, who was originally cold and scheming, had become irritable, impulsive, and easily angered after the trend of charging into the evil king's palace emerged. Then, after being defeated by Qin Qian, his temperament took another turn for the worse. He sported a dark facial expression, looking as if he had been cuckolded by his sweetheart. The evil king's attendants were on edge every day. They did not even dare to take a deep breath, afraid that any movements or slight actions would trigger the evil king's unhappiness, which would get them killed immediately. They even had to consider whether they should lead with their left or right foot when entering the door. Not long ago, there was an unlucky guy who came to report to the evil king when he was in a bad mood. In the end, the evil king had said, "How dare you lead with your left foot into the door first? Die." He was then slapped to death. It was terrible. Now, if the evil king was in a bad mood, the servants would not report anything to him for fear of being slapped to death for some made-up reason. It was all Kun Wu's fault. The charging into the evil king's palace trend that he had created had made the evil king so angry that his entire temperament had changed. Is Chu County really not under the jurisdiction of the Great Qin dynasty? Is it true that the Qin family has ostracized the Chu family? The evil king asked coldly. King, this matter is true. There is no trap or conspiracy. Standing below was Chong Jianfang, one of the 108 evil warriors of the evil imperial court. Other than the evil king himself, the evil imperial court comprised the 10 evil commanders, 36 evil generals, and 108 evil warriors. They represented the top powerhouses of the evil imperial court. The evil commanders, evil generals, and evil warriors were all ranked based on their strength, and their positions were not fixed. If someone was stronger, then that person could replace the current title holder. Since the establishment of the evil imperial court, only the evil king's lineage had never been replaced, and his position had never been shaken. Regardless of whether it was the evil commanders, evil generals, or evil warriors, these had all changed over and over again. There had been heretic cultivators who had held back until they were powerful enough to display their might by defeating the evil warriors, thus replacing them. Of course, in order to consolidate their position, every evil commander would train their subordinates, and many of the 36 evil generals were formed factions under certain evil commanders. It was the same for the evil warriors. Those who were not from the evil commanders, factions all belonged to the evil king's faction. Anyone without a faction would often be targeted and killed by others. Only those who belonged to the evil king's faction did not face such a problem. Chong Jianfeng was born as a grassroots heretic cultivator. He had endured for many years before finally finding an opportunity to defeat an evil warrior and replacing him. Those who belonged to the evil king's faction would not be killed by those from the evil generals or the evil commanders' factions. Although the evil king's faction was powerful, there had to be a balance among the evil generals, evil commanders, and evil warriors. Therefore, they were very willing to accept and protect heretic cultivators who had no background and promote them to high positions. The system of the evil imperial court was rather straightforward and simple. How is your strength compared to Song Yiming? The evil king looked at Chong Jianfeng and asked. Slightly inferior, Chong Jianfeng answered truthfully. Song Yiming was the sect master of Nine Swords Mountain, after all. Although they were both at the 9th level of the Truth Realm, Chong Jianfeng would definitely lose in a real fight against the other party. The evil king nodded. He was not surprised to hear this. Chong Jianfeng was just an evil warrior after all. He was not even an evil general. Naturally, he would not be Song Yiming's match. Nine Swords Mountain had a very deep foundation. Moreover, the sect master was not the strongest expert in the sect. He was only good at managing the sect, developing the sect, and enforcing the sect's rules. Of course, as the sect master, his strength could not be that weak either. Song Yiming was very strong. Out of the 36 evil generals, there were less than 10 who could defeat him. You may leave. With a wave of his hand, he ordered Chong Jianfeng to leave. The evil king narrowed his eyes and started to think. Chu County occupied a very important place in the Great Qin dynasty. It was almost in the hinterlands of the Great Qin dynasty. The Chu family also had an extraordinary relationship with the Qin, Zhao, and He families. If he could control the Chu family, perhaps it would turn out to be more useful than the heretic cult. At the critical moment, he could use the Chu family to stab the Qin family in the back. If I personally make a move, even if your Chu family is a dragon's den or tiger's lair, you will still have to bow down to me. The evil king smiled coldly. Chapter 87. The Evil King's Attack. The evil king secretly left the evil king's palace and went to Chu County in the Great Qin dynasty's territory in person. With his strength, no one would notice him leaving. Moreover, the evil king had a bad temper and liked to kill people. If there was nothing to report, the servants preferred to hide far away and would not dare to trouble the evil king. Therefore, after the evil king told them that he did not want to be disturbed, the servants were overjoyed. During this period, even if there was an urgent matter, the servants would not dare to disturb the evil king. They would instead hand the matter over to the other higher-ups of the evil imperial court to handle. The higher-ups of the evil imperial court were aware of the evil king's bad temper. Therefore, they could understand the servants' behavior. Given the evil king's strength, as long as he did not encounter Qin Qian, no one would be able to defeat him. Furthermore, in order to successfully complete his plan, and to prevent his plans for the Chu family from being uncovered, the evil king disguised himself and avoided crowded and public places. Furthermore, he only moved at night. The reason why he was being so cautious was so that he could avoid the detection of the Black Moon Tower's intelligence network. He knew very well that the Black Moon Tower was constantly paying attention to him. They wanted to sell information regarding his whereabouts and plans to others for a high price. Of course, the Black Moon Tower did not only pay attention to the evil king. Their list of high-priority tracking targets included the Great Qian dynasty's ruler, the Great Qin Empress, and many other characters of note. Everyone's priority was equal and balanced. With the Black Moon Tower's attention split, the evil king's heart was much more calm. The various faction leaders in the southern region and famous experts were all on the Black Moon Tower's watch list. Hence, the most important thing for anyone who wanted to do something secretly was to avoid the Black Moon Tower's spies. If they discovered the Black Moon Tower's spies, when necessary, they would kill them off immediately to avoid exposing their whereabouts. Although the Black Moon Tower was powerful, these were only spies. If the spies were discovered, they could kill them. This was within the rules of the cultivation world. The Black Moon Tower did not dare to offend the masses over the deaths of their spies. No matter how powerful the Black Moon Tower was, once they offended the masses, they would not be able to withstand the backlash. After all, the Black Moon Tower did play by the rules, so if their intelligence personnel were exposed and killed by the experts they were monitoring, they had no choice but to accept it. Although the Black Moon Tower's intelligence gathering capability was extremely powerful, it was not omnipotent. It was not capable of getting its hands on every piece of intelligence out there. If an expert truly wanted to hide their tracks, it would not be easy to investigate their movements. The evil king moved forward and soon arrived at the Purple Moon County. He was not far from Chu County now. He did not make any moves along the way to avoid any possible exposing himself. After arriving at Chu County, the evil king did not head to the Chu family's territory immediately. Instead, he collected information about the Chu family, especially investigating if there were hidden experts or if there was a possibility of an ambush. Even though the evil king was very confident in his own strength, he still needed to be cautious. He was not invincible in the southern region. The Great Qin Empress was not someone he could deal with. After a few days of investigation, he confirmed that there was no possibility of an ambush in Chu County and that there were no hidden experts. There were not even any Unity Realm experts in the Chu family's territory. The Chu family seemed to have become withdrawn and had entered a dormant period, seemingly very low-key. Compared to their arrogance when they were annihilating the heretic cult, the current Chu family was unsettlingly quiet and seemed to be doing their best not to attract any attention. The evil king felt that it probably had something to do with the Chu family being excluded from the core of the Great Qin dynasty's affairs. Since the Great Qin dynasty has ostracized your Chu family, then you should come and join my evil imperial court. The evil king smiled coldly. As night fell, the evil king set off toward the Chu family's territory. He had personally come this time to secretly take control of the Chu family. Moving at night made it easier for him to conceal his actions. The Chu family was a very important piece. Once he successfully took control of them, it would be the same as planting a hidden piece in the Great Qin dynasty. If he was successful, he would be able to backstab the Great Qin dynasty at any time. Ding Yu and Su Shaner were both cultivating diligently inside the universe space. Ding Yu's sword intent had grown especially strong, and the image of his childhood sweetheart in his heart had already become very blurry. It would not be long before he completely forgot his childhood sweetheart. He would no longer think about her and would no longer be distracted by her. He could wholeheartedly devote himself to the cultivation of the way of the sword. As the thoughts of missing his childhood sweetheart grew fainter and fainter, Ding Yu found that his focus on the way of the sword was also becoming stronger and stronger. He increasingly felt that his master's teachings were correct. If he wanted to cultivate the supreme sword, he had to truly forget about his sweetheart. While he was trying his best to break through the first stage of the way of the sword, Ding Yu had also made preparations to break through the second stage as well. He carved a wooden figure and placed it where Su Shaner was cultivating. Every now and then, he would look over. When was the first person he paid attention to? Not Su Shaner, but the wooden figure. It would mean that he had made progress in the second stage of the way of the sword. Su Shaner's facial expression was dark the entire time. Ding Yu, this rascal, was determined to be a single dog. Was he using her to temper his state of mind to break through the second stage of the way of the sword? Since that was the case, then she could not be blamed for being ruthless. Su Shaner held a long whip and flung it, wrapping Ding Yu up. She directly threw him high into the air and gave him a fierce beating. I'll give you a beating every day. I'd like to see if you'll end up staring warily at me first, or to look at the wooden figure first. Ding Yu sadly realized that, after getting beaten up, he had become wary of Su Shaner and was angry at her at the same time. Every time he looked at Su Shaner, he would subconsciously look at Su Shaner. Only after that did he realize that he wanted to look at the wooden figure first. The second stage was too difficult. Every time he was distracted, he would be disturbed by external things. However, Ding Yu was not discouraged. Instead, he became even more determined. Every day, Chu Zan would use the myriad heavenly mirror to connect to a random place, occasionally deceiving the people he met. However, he did not encounter any experts, therefore his hopes of deceiving another expert fell through. When night fell, Chu Zan yawned and was about to go back to his room to sleep. With his strength, he actually did not need to sleep. However, he was already used to it. He would look at the spirit cultivating diagram to cultivate the power of his divine soul before slowly falling asleep. This was part of his daily life. Suddenly, a figure quietly appeared outside the Chu family's territory. A half-step Emperor Realm expert. It was a half-step Emperor Realm powerhouse. Although the intruder was much weaker than Qin Qian, he was much stronger than Song Yiming. He had almost touched the threshold of the Emperor Realm. If the laws of heaven and earth in the southern region were restored, the other party would have a chance of breaking through to the Emperor Realm. A half-step Emperor Realm powerhouse was already considered one of the foremost experts in the southern region. Why did this person come to the Chu family's territory? What did he want to do? Moreover, there was an evil power hidden inside the body of the person who came. He was undoubtedly a heretic cultivator. A heretic cultivator who was a half-step emperor realm expert. An absurd thought appeared in Chu Zan's mind. Could this guy be the evil king of the evil imperial court? Was he here to deal with the Chu family personally? However, from his current actions, it seemed that he did not intend to kick up a big fuss here. It seemed that he did not want to destroy the Chu family, but instead had other plans for them. Given the evil king's strength, even if he did kick up a big fuss here, he would still be able to safely escape back to the evil imperial court. After all, in the entirety of the great Qin dynasty, besides Qin Qian, no one was his match. In addition, Qin Qian was too far away from Chu County. By the time she received news of his presence here, he would have long fled. Therefore, seeing that the evil king was behaving so carefully and suspiciously, there had to be other motives behind his visit. The truth of the matter was, he wanted to secretly control the Chu family. Chapter 88. The Frightened Evil King. When the evil king entered the Chu family's territory and saw that the guards of the Chu family were all at the profound realm, he felt that he had been overly cautious. How could a mere Chu family stand up to an evil king like him? So what if there was an ambush? Who would be able to stop him? If Qin Qian, the empress, personally made a move, he would be no match for her. Still, if he wanted to escape, the other party would not be able to stop him. With this thought in mind, the evil king stopped hiding himself. Instead, he swaggered out. He headed in the straight toward the Chu family's ancestral residence. Although he was no longer overly cautious, the evil king did not want to be exposed in advance. After all, if others knew that the evil king had visited the Chu family, but the Chu family had emerged unharmed, people would know that there was something wrong with the Chu family. As such, even though the evil king was swaggering forward, the guards still did not notice him. There was a small courtyard in front of him. The evil king only took a brief glance at it before ignoring it. He planned to continue moving forward. However, his body moved, and the scene before his eyes changed. He suddenly appeared inside a small courtyard. There was a handsome young man in front of him who was sitting leisurely on a reclining chair. Beside the young man was a beautiful woman dressed as a servant who was elegantly making tea. Gulp! The evil king swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He felt his scalp go numb and his muscles instantly tensed up. At this moment, he was extremely nervous. Just a moment ago, he had been outside the courtyard preparing to go to the Chu family's ancestral residence to control the family head and thereby secretly control the entire Chu family. However, he had suddenly appeared inside this courtyard in the blink of an eye. The crux of the matter was that he did not even know how he ended up inside the courtyard. The Chu family was extremely terrifying. At this moment, cold sweat ran down the evil king's back and he felt extremely regretful. Why did he decide to take control of the Chu family? It was all that damn Kun Wu's fault. That's right, it was him who had messed up his mood and caused him to become impatient and irritable. That was why he hot-headedly ran over to the Chu family. Looking at the young man on the reclining chair, the evil king's body tensed up and he stood ramrod straight. Who was he? Was he Chu Chuluo? The evil king remembered the name of the outstanding talent of the Chu family who had once dominated the Qin kingdom and became famous throughout the southern region. On second thought, the evil king felt that something was amiss. Chu Chuluo was indeed talented, but how old was he? How could he be so powerful? No matter how monstrous he was, he would at best have reached the half-step emperor realm. Besides, did Chu Chuluo and his wife not go missing? Were they not only at the peak of the void realm before they went missing? Given the Great Qian dynasty's way of doing things, Chu Chuluo would have had to go to the Great Qian dynasty if he wanted to break through to the Unity realm. Therefore, the person in front of him was definitely not Chu Chuluo. He looked young, but was he actually an old monster? The evil king was a little flustered. Escape, he immediately dispelled this thought. The other party had silently moved him, a half-step emperor realm, into the courtyard. No matter what, he would not be able to escape from the other party's palm. Chu Zan yawned. He glanced at the frightened evil king and said, "Evil king." The evil king's body trembled. What should I do? Should I beg for mercy? I'm the evil king. Wouldn't it be too embarrassing for him to beg for mercy? Then again, it was not really embarrassing to beg for mercy from an old monster. In an instant, the evil king's thoughts changed rapidly. He bowed and said, yes, I pay my respects to Senior. Why are you here? I'm here to pay a visit to the head of the Chu family, the evil king hurriedly lied. Chu Zan rolled his eyes. The great evil king of the evil imperial court secretly came to visit that old man Chu Tianming in the middle of the night. Who was he trying to fool? HMPH. Chu Zan only coldly harumphed. The evil king was so frightened that his body trembled, and he hurriedly said, this junior did not know his place and wanted to control the Chu family. Please spare my life, senior. His dignity was important, but not as important as his life. After all, he had already been humiliated again and again, making him the most undignified of all the evil kings in history. As such, he did not mind losing a little bit more dignity. The evil king consoled himself. Chu Zan narrowed his eyes and thought for a while before asking, do you know about the great Qin emperor? The evil imperial court had existed for a long time, perhaps even before the Great War with the demons. However, it had only truly risen to prominence after the Great War. Even the great Qian dynasty could not suppress its rise, and was instead suppressed by it. From this, one could tell how extraordinary the evil imperial court was. As the current evil king and one of the top experts in the southern region, he definitely knew a lot of secrets. The evil king was startled. He did not know why the other party asked this question. I don't know much. Tell me what you know. Yes, yes. The evil king nodded and sorted out his thoughts before saying, I once read in an ancient book that the great Qin emperor unified the southern region and established the great Qin empire, which was the largest empire in the northern zone. Chu Zan was surprised. He had thought that the evil king would know more, but the other party did not seem to know much. The evil king only knew that the great Qin emperor had unified the southern region, and had founded the largest empire in the northern zone. After all, the other regions in the northern zone had not been unified yet, so now that the southern region had been unified, the great Qin empire naturally became the largest empire in the northern zone. Since he could not get too much information about the great Qin emperor, Chu Zan changed his focus. How much do you know about the Asura ancient land? Not much. The evil king panicked. He did not know much about these ancient secrets. What if the other party felt that he was worthless and slapped him to death? Speak. Yes, yes. Cold sweat dripped down the evil king's forehead. He did not dare to raise his hand to wipe it away and maintained his bowed posture, not even daring to take a deep breath. Rumor has it that the Asura ancient land was the battlefield where the demon race invaded the southern region and started a war. Because those who participated in the war were all Heaven Realm experts, the battle became so intense that the ley lines of the southern region collapsed, thereby damaging the laws of heaven and earth. There is also news that the Asura ancient land will open in 20 to 30 years. After saying that, the evil king glanced at Chu Zan nervously. What other experts does the evil imperial court have? Chu Zan pondered. Which expert had founded the evil imperial court? Currently, the top forces in the southern region all had backers behind them. They either had the support of other forces, or they had prepared a scheme for the Asura ancient land. Some of them were the branches of major forces that had left the southern region to rebuild their factions. Apart from me, there's also my uncle. However, he's always in closed-door cultivation. The evil king hesitated for a moment but, in the end, he chose to answer honestly. Given the other party's terrifying strength, if he really wanted to destroy the evil imperial court, they would not be able to even mount a resistance. As such, he might as well answer honestly. Whether he lived or died depended completely on luck. Chu Zan understood. His uncle was the previous evil king, and the strongest expert of the evil imperial court. There were even rumors circulating in the outside world that he had successfully broken through to the Emperor realm through some kind of secret technique. After asking all those questions, Chu Zan waved his hand, and a stream of energy entered the evil king's body. At the same time, he planted a soul seal on the evil king. Controlling the evil king of the evil imperial court could come in handy sometime. Go back and reorganize the evil imperial court. Chu Zan waved his hand. Yes, yes, my lord, the evil king said respectfully. He was panicking inside. Had he been controlled just like that? What was even sadder was that he had still retained his mental clarity and consciousness, but was unable to resist Chu Zan's will. Moreover, he was actually filled with respect and reverence toward this old monster before him. He was completely unable to muster even the slightest thought of opposing him. The evil king would much rather have lost his self-consciousness than have a clear mind. He was deeply aware that he was being controlled, yet was unable to resist. He was being constantly tormented by this contradiction. Chapter 89. Someone come quickly. The evil king has gone mad. The evil king left. Before that, Chuzan threw him a communication jade talisman so that he could keep in contact. At the same time, he asked the evil king to tidy up the evil imperial court after he went back. As for how that would be done, the evil king naturally had his own ideas. Chuzan had planted his own energy along with the soul seed seal inside the evil king's body. If the old evil king came out of seclusion, the energy would be immediately activated, which would suppress the old evil king and plant the seed soul seal inside the latter. He did not force the evil king to deceive the old evil king. There was no need for that. He would just leave it to fate. The evil king had not even reached the emperor realm, so he did not deserve Chuzan's attention. He had just controlled the evil king on a whim. Perhaps this chess piece would become useful when the Asura ancient land opened. After the evil king left the Chu family's territory, he finally let out a sigh of relief. His life was saved. However, from now on, the evil king had become someone else's servant. It was all Chong Jianfeng's fault. Their intelligence gathering had failed miserably. He had gone to the Chu family's territory in person and almost lost his life. The evil imperial court was too weak, and all the heretic cultivator B***stards were angry at him. After he returned, he would definitely deal with them ruthlessly. The evil king then successfully returned to the evil imperial court. Upon returning to the evil imperial court, he saw that someone was barging into his palace again. He almost exploded with anger. If it had not been for these B***stards, who would always barge into his palace and ruthlessly challenge his dignity, causing him to become irritable, he would not have fallen into the hands of the tiny Chu family. With that thought in mind, the evil king looked at the surrounding heretic cultivators and felt that these people were extremely detestable. They deserved to be killed. The tidying up of the evil imperial court would start with these B***stards. At this moment, outside the evil king's palace, many heretic cultivators were watching. As the number of people barging into the evil king's palace increased, it no longer caused such a big commotion. The guards of the evil king's palace had also become numb to it. Now, when they saw someone barging into the evil king's palace, they only chased after them as a symbolic gesture. They did not have any intention of killing them. The people who barged into the evil king palace were also tactful. They exchanged a few blows with the guards and then left after barging past the gate and taking a turn. There was a tacit understanding between them. Barging into the evil king's palace was no longer a matter of certain death. Now, breaking into the evil king's palace had become a must-do activity for heretic cultivators who had just arrived at the capital of the evil imperial court. If they came to the capital and did not barge into the evil king's palace, they would be embarrassed to admit that they had gone to the capital. They would be ridiculed as cowards. As for the dignity and reputation of the evil king, not many people cared about it now. This was also the main reason why the evil king was angry. He was now known as the evil king with the least dignity of all the past evil kings. He had personally killed several heretic cultivators, but not only had he failed to intimidate the heretic cultivators, but the ones who had been killed had instead been regarded as glorious martyrs. It was as if barging into the evil king's palace and successfully attracting the evil king to personally attack was a glorious death. This was also the reason why the evil king had stopped attacking. At this moment, the evil king had returned to the capital from the outside. He looked at the heretic cultivators who were bravely barging into his palace, as well as at the crowd of onlookers. For the first time, he understood that the reason why there were so many people charging into the evil king's palace one after another was all because of the adulation of the onlookers. They all deserved to die. At this moment, the evil king's killing intent surged. The evil imperial court was in a mess. It was time to clean everything up. How could he make this like a proper empire? He had never thought that an empire formed by heretic cultivators would definitely not be a proper empire. Chuzan had asked him to clean up the evil imperial court. This was an absolute command. The evil king watched the heretic cultivators barge into his palace and found where he would start his cleanup. Do you think the evil king will personally make a move this time? How is that possible? The ones who came to break into the evil king palace this time have only reached the void realm. How could they provoke the evil king into making a move? That's right, if the evil king makes a move now, it would be too undignified. Even if they die, it would have been worth it. After all, it is glorious for a mere void realm expert to die at the hands of the evil king. The onlookers discussed things among themselves. The evil king's anger kept rising. Dignified, how the FCK would I still have dignity? I have to restore my dignity. Go to hell. The evil king looked at the guards who were pretending to fight against the intruders. He could no longer contain his anger. He had to start a massacre today. Boom! A blood-red palm suddenly reached out and grabbed both sides. The powerful aura scared all the heretic cultivators so much that their expressions drastically changed. The evil king made a move. What's going on? The evil king made a move. A small group of people in the crowd felt that something was wrong and quickly left quietly. The blood-red palm clenched and crushed both sides to death. The onlookers' expressions changed when they saw the evil king crushing the guards to death. However, they did not pay too much attention to it. After all, the guards had been too perfunctory in performing their duties, so it was normal for the evil king to be angry at them. The evil king's figure appeared at the entrance of the evil king's palace and scanned the crowd. Greetings to the evil king. The onlookers had no idea that a disaster was coming. Seeing the evil king appear, they all bowed and greeted him. After all, he was the evil king and the current leader of the evil imperial court. They had to give him the respect he deserved. However, they felt that this evil king was the most undignified one in history. Do you still see me as the evil king? The evil king sneered and suddenly roared, you all deserve to die. Boom! The aura of a half-step emperor realm expert erupted. He raised his hand and slapped it toward the crowd. Boom! More than 10 heretic cultivators died in an instant. The others became terrified and tried to run away, but the evil king was so angry that there was no way that he would let them. His false domain was activated at this moment, and a blood-red long saber appeared in his hand. Whoosh! A blood-red saber light swept out and killed dozens of people in an instant. The false domain of the evil king was very weak in comparison to actual Emperor realm experts. It was also much weaker than Qin Qian's false domain. However, it was very easy for him to use it to suppress those in the truth realm and below. Your Majesty, what are you doing? Everyone panicked. Have you finally realized that I'm your king now? The evil king's eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty light. The blood-colored saber slashed out again and again, killing the onlookers. Faced with a life and death crisis, no one would sit around and wait for death. Everyone started to fight back. The trend of barging into the evil king's palace had been ongoing for so long, so there were not many experts among the onlookers now. There were only a few truth realm experts present, and less than 10% of them had reached the unity realm. Most of them were void realm cultivators and below. Among them, those in the profound realm and the spirit realm were the most numerous. How could they resist the evil king's attacks? In just a short moment, 1/3 of them had been killed. The evil king's outburst naturally shook the capital. Many experts from various factions rushed over in a hurry. After all, there were some of their factions in the crowd, and there were even some direct descendants of the experts present there. Your Majesty, please show mercy. Go to hell. The evil king directly slashed out with his saber, killing that expert on the spot. The expressions of the other experts that had rushed over immediately changed. Had the evil king gone mad? Someone come quickly. The evil king has gone mad. Countless experts from large factions, including the evil commanders, evil generals, and evil warriors, rushed over in a hurry. They had to stop the evil king from continuing his massacre. One had to know that the heretic cultivators in the capital were all elites. If too many of them were killed, it would affect the overall strength of the evil imperial court. They might even end up being suppressed by the Great Qian dynasty. Your Majesty, you can't continue killing. An evil commander rushed over to stop him. Chapter 90. Little Evil King, Old Evil King. Go to hell. The evil king directly slashed out with his blade. B-starred, there have been people who repeatedly challenged this king's dignity, but you didn't come out to kill them, yet you actively came out to persuade me when I did. This travesty must be properly rectified. The evil commander's expression changed drastically. FCK, had the evil king really gone crazy? He hurriedly blocked the attack. As an evil commander, his cultivation had to be at the peak of the truth realm. There was no way that he could become one of the top experts of the evil imperial court otherwise. Although the evil king was powerful, it was still impossible for him to kill the evil commander in one move. Boom, the battle became even more intense. Your Majesty, please stop. We can't continue fighting like this. One after another, the evil commanders, the evil generals, and the evil warriors rushed over and joined hands to resist the evil king's crazy attacks. Everyone felt as if they had eaten a fly. Why did the evil king suddenly go crazy? Are you all rebelling? The evil king became more and more furious, and his attacks became more and more ferocious. The experts of the evil imperial court all turned pale and tried their best to resist the evil king's attacks. If this matter continued to develop, would the capital still be needed? More evil warriors rushed over from afar. Seeing this situation, they hurriedly ran into the evil king's palace and asked the experts from the evil king's lineage to persuade the evil king. If this battle continued, the consequences would be unimaginable. The death of an evil warrior, an evil general, or even an evil commander, or even if they were seriously injured, would affect the overall strength of the evil imperial court. The experts from the evil king's lineage also hurried over to persuade him. However, the evil king became even angrier. He felt that his dignity as the evil king had been completely decimated. These B*****stards even dared to attack him. The experts' expressions turned ugly. They could only join hands to block the evil king's attacks and temporarily restrain him. The evil king was enraged. His half-step emperor realm cultivation was displayed in its entirety. Everyone became very serious. He was too strong. If they were careless, even if there were so many experts joining hands, they could still be killed or injured. In the eastern courtyard of the evil king's palace, a pale-faced young man with a demonic aura was sitting in the pavilion, humming a tune. A figure flew over. "Your Highness, please go and persuade His Majesty." The little evil king glanced at the person. This was one of the evil warriors of the imperial court who belonged to the evil king's lineage. "Why are you looking for me? Go and find someone who can suppress my father." The evil warrior was helpless, so he could only join forces with the powerful warriors of the evil king's lineage to ask the old evil king to come out of seclusion. The little evil king sighed and looked at the battle taking place outside the palace. He muttered, "I told you. It's easy to have problems with your brain when you cultivate evil techniques. Look, there's a problem now. Fortunately, I don't cultivate evil techniques." The little evil king felt that it was fortunate that he had made the right decision back then. If he cultivated evil techniques too, he might have problems with his brain one day. "Someone, come here." A figure dressed in black appeared in front of him. "Your Highness, it's time to feed the fish." "Yes." Not long after, a woman of 16 or 17 years old appeared in the hands of the man dressed in black. The woman's face was pale and her entire body was trembling. The little evil king stood up and grabbed the woman by the neck, lifting her up. He walked over to the side of the pavilion and looked at the fish pond below. There were blood-red silhouettes swimming in the fish pond. Blood-red strange fish with fangs appeared on the surface of the water, revealing their snow-white teeth. Rip! The little evil king tore off one of the woman's arms. Fresh blood gushed out and splashed into the fish pond. The arm was also thrown into the water. Splash! The blood-red strange fish crazily snapped up the food. The woman who was held in his hand by the neck let out a mournful howl as she continuously twisted her body. The little evil king displayed an expression of enjoyment on his face as he tore the limbs off the woman and threw her flesh into the water to feed the fish. At the same time, he watched the battle taking place outside the palace. "Sigh, what kind of evil technique are you practicing? Your brain has already been damaged from practicing it. You keep going crazy every now and then." The black-clothed man's entire body tensed up. He had experienced the fish-feeding scene countless times, but he still felt a chill in his heart every single time. After hearing the little evil king's words, he only had one thought in his mind. The little evil king's brain was truly broken. In terms of evilness, who could compare to the little evil king? In the evil imperial court, there was probably no one more ruthless, more evil, and more perverse than him. He had torn a living person into pieces and fed her to the fishes. Moreover, that person would not faint and would remain conscious the entire time. Their miserable howls were like beautiful melodies to the little evil king's ears. "I can't stay in the capital any longer." The little evil king threw the rest of the corpse into the pond and led the black-clothed person out of the palace. In the depths of the evil king's palace, a group of people were kneeling in front of an underground palace. The underground palace was where the old evil king was in seclusion. After a long while, an old and majestic voice could be heard from the underground palace. "What's the matter? The evil king has gone mad and is slaughtering experts." The old man in the front said helplessly. He was from the evil king's lineage and was the evil king's uncle. Boom. The underground palace's door opened. A tall and sturdy figure walked out. A fierce aura surged forth, frightening the kneeling people and forcing them to retreat. The old evil king had come out of seclusion. The old evil king raised his head to look at the battle outside the palace. This is getting more and more outrageous. The old evil king was furious. He had devoted his life to cultivation, but the laws of heaven and earth were damaged in the southern region, so he could not break through to the emperor realm. He wanted to leave the southern region, but he had been stopped, so he had no choice but to go into seclusion to try to break through with a secret technique. He had no children, so he passed the position of evil king to his nephew. He had not expected such a ridiculous thing to happen not long after he went into seclusion. He moved and appeared outside the palace. "Stop!" the old evil king shouted angrily. Everyone stopped. The evil king's expression changed drastically. He had not expected the old evil king to come out of seclusion. One had to know that there was a power hidden in his body that was meant to control the old evil king. Chuzan did not ask him to control the old evil king, so the evil king naturally would not try to harm his uncle. However, he did not expect the old evil king to actually come out of seclusion. The evil king's body trembled, and a stream of power appeared, directly pressing down on the old evil king. This stream of power was silent and soundless. Other than the evil king himself, no one else noticed it. Even the old evil king only noticed it the moment the power descended. It was already too late for him to resist. Moreover, with his strength, there was no way he could resist. In an instant, a soul seed seal was planted into his soul. Chuzan did not exert his will on this soul seed seal. The evil king looked at the old evil king, and the old evil king looked at the evil king. The uncle and nephew pair remained silent for a while. "Why did you kill the powerhouses of the evil imperial court?" the old evil king asked in a deep voice. "I want to clean up the evil imperial court," the evil king said with a solemn expression. The old evil king was silent for a while. He then moved and returned to the underground palace where he had been in seclusion. His voice could be heard from afar, "Then clean it up well." "Thank you for your support, uncle," the evil king bowed and said. The evil commanders, evil generals, and evil warriors all had a bad feeling. He wanted to clean up the evil imperial court. How? Moreover, even the old evil king supported it. Who could stop the evil king now? The higher-ups of the evil imperial court looked at each other. They had a feeling that the days ahead would be difficult. Chapter 91, 5 years. The evil king acted swiftly and decisively. He suppressed any dissatisfaction and reorganized the evil imperial court, finally regaining the dignity of an evil king. What made the countless heretic cultivators unhappy was that the evil king had actually introduced a series of laws that placed many restrictions on the heretic cultivators. There were too many rules and regulations, to the point that it was even stricter and more restrictive than the laws of the Great Qian dynasty. It was simply ridiculous. They were heretic cultivators, so why was there a need for so many laws? However, the old evil king also supported it, which caused many of the upper echelons of the evil imperial court to think that the old evil king and the evil king had both lost their minds. They wanted to look for the little evil king to persuade those two, but the little evil king had already left the evil imperial court. As such, they could only bear with it. Perhaps when the evil king's anger subsided, the laws and regulations would be repealed. If there were people who opposed the new law of the evil imperial court, there would also naturally be people who supported it. For example, those who were at the bottom rungs and weaker cultivators. Under the new laws, they would be able to obtain more protection and have more opportunities to cultivate and rise up. Chuzan had only casually asked the evil king to reorganize the evil imperial court. As for how that objective was accomplished, he did not care. In this world where the strong reigned supreme, there were not many good laws. Most kingdoms only promulgated some simple rules, and those laws rarely protected or safeguarded the welfare of the weak. However, even if they did, there would always be experts who would disregard the rules and kill the weak anyway. The law enforcers would usually turn a blind eye and would not offend the strong for the sake of the weak. If even the Great Qian dynasty was like this, what more the evil imperial court? The evil imperial court's new laws made many factions wonder if there was something wrong with the evil king's head. He was an heretic cultivator, yet he had created such strict laws to protect the weak and even set up a law enforcement team. His sense of justice was even stronger than the righteous path. His benevolent and wise actions seemed unbecoming of an evil king. If these new laws were strictly implemented, the evil imperial court would not be evil anymore, it would be fair and just. Compared to them, the Great Qian dynasty now looked to be the evil ones. The southern region regained its peace, and there were no conflicts between the major factions. The only place that was not peaceful was the evil imperial court, which had pushed forward many new laws. Many heretic cultivators who were not used to the new laws felt the heat. Many of them were imprisoned, and they secretly wondered if they were in an evil kingdom or a just one. Chu Zan had originally thought that the Great Qian dynasty would send people to the Chu family to control the Chu family for their own use, turning them into a thorn in the Great Qin dynasty's side. In the end though, the Great Qian dynasty did not send anyone. Ever since Qin Qian had led the Great Qin dynasty to rise up, the southern region had undergone a massive power restructuring and, after a short period of turmoil, it returned to a peaceful state. Chu Zan knew that the various factions were all waiting for the Asura ancient land to open. As for the Great Qin dynasty, it was busy absorbing whatever resources it could find to rapidly develop its foundation and strength. The Chu family was also cultivating in a low-profile manner, and each and every one of them was trying their best to increase their strength, wanting to catch up to the other three families. Chu Zan raised his head. The light in his eyes gleamed as the laws of heaven and earth in the southern region continued to recover. As the laws were restored, the cultivation speed of the southern region's cultivators also gradually increased. Time flew by. Soon, the 5-year milestone had arrived. Chu Zan's cultivation had already risen to the 4th level of the Supreme Realm. The strength of his 2 pets had increased very quickly as well. The heavenly spirit cat reached the 5th level of the Emperor Realm and the sky-shaking golden rock reached the 9th level Emperor Realm. After the spirit-devouring flower swallowed the devilish blood energy from the blood spirit pearl, it underwent a transformation, and its strength was now equivalent to the 6th level Emperor Realm cultivator. Ding Yu was indeed worthy of being the fated person of the current generation of the southern region. Moreover, his terrifying talent in the sword Dao was further complemented by his Heaven's Will sword pulse. His cultivation had already reached the 3rd level of the Void Realm. It had only taken him less than 2 years to advance from the 1st level of the Spirit Realm to the 3rd level of the Void Realm. Moreover, given the sword technique that Ding Yu cultivated, it was not a problem for him to cross realms and battle cultivators at the 7th or 8th level of the Void Realm. Presently, Ding Yu had already broken through the 1st stage of the Way of the Sword and forgotten all about his sweetheart. He no longer missed his childhood sweetheart. Anyone who thought ill of a person every day, blaming her for his predicament and heaping all sorts of insults on her, was bound to gradually loathe her, stop liking her, and then forget about her. He could now concentrate on the sword Dao. At this moment, when he started cultivating the sword Dao seriously, Ding Yu realized that pining for a woman truly distracted him from cultivating. He increasingly felt that what his master said was true. Ding Yu was currently trying to overcome the 2nd stage of the Way of the Sword, so that he would not be distracted by beautiful women and would only have the soul of the sword in his heart. However, even up till now, he was still unable to overcome this stage. When Chu Yun came to the small courtyard, he would take a few glances at her. He clearly did not have any other thoughts in his heart, but he would always subconsciously look at her. This was especially so when Su Shaner was with Chu Yun. He would subconsciously look over. This stage was too difficult. It was difficult to not be disturbed by external things. Ding Yu's gaze was resolute. He would definitely overcome this test. Apart from teaching Ding Yu the sword Dao, Chu Zan also taught him concealment techniques. Concealing one's cultivation was, after all, a necessary skill. He also taught the immovable mountain technique to Ding Yu. The sword manual he provided to Ding Yu also included cultivation techniques for one's soul. As such, Chu Zan did not teach him any other soul techniques. One should not bite off more than he could chew. Moreover, Ding Yu's terrifying talent was all focused on the Way of the Sword. In terms of his aptitude for other secret arts, his cultivation was much slower. Su Shaner's cultivation speed was also extremely fast. She had the Grand Moon mystic physique, so when she cultivated the Grand Moon Immortal spell which was compatible with her physique, her strength would naturally increase by leaps and bounds. She was now already at the 8th level of the Unity Realm. Chu Yun's talent was not poor either, especially when it came to alchemy. She had already reached the 9th level of the Spirit Realm. Although she was a lot weaker than Ding Yu, in the entire southern region, there were not many who could compare to her. Moreover, her true talent was actually focused in the field of alchemy. Chu Yun had already left the Chu family's territory to temper herself. It had also been a long time since Chu Zan heard Chu Tianming's roars from the direction of the ancestral residence. The impending rise of the Chu family probably meant that they were less angry with Chu Yuan. There did not seem to be many people in the Chu family who still remembered him. Apart from Chu Yun who came frequently, Chu Qing came to visit a few times and 7th brother also came 3 times. Other than that, no one else came to visit him. Chu Zan was happy to live his life in peace. The 5-year milestone was about to arrive, and Chu Zan was looking forward to what rewards he would receive. Nowadays, the rewards that were randomly triggered for his achievements in seclusion were of a very high grade. Divine grade treasures rarely appeared. Most of them were treasures above the divine grade. With the support of Chu Zan's medicinal pills, Du Yuan's strength rose very quickly, and he was now at the peak of the 3rd level of the Supreme Realm. It would not be long before he broke through to the 4th level of the Supreme Realm. After cultivating the Purple Flames Burning Heavens technique, Du Yuan's strength was almost invincible among those of the same level. Ren Changhai's comprehension of the Yin-Yang God combination Divine Seal had improved quite a bit, and his strength had already taken a step forward. Although he had not actually reached the Divine Realm, he was not far from it. He had now reached the half-step Divine Realm. He still remained inside the Fallen God Cave and chose not to leave for the time being. The aura of death in the Fallen God Cave was still prevalent around the area. However, the stone house where Ren Chang was located was already showing signs of life. In fact, due to his increased mastery of the cycle of life and death, the originally lifeless plants around his stone house were exhibiting signs of life and had transformed into special treasures. These had the miraculous effect of reversing life and death. Chapter 92. 5-Year Reward, Pocket Dimension. Chu Zan was regretful that he had not managed to deceive another powerhouse. Moreover, it had been so long, yet there had not been any new individuals with great luck passing by his courtyard. What was more unexpected was that, under the evil king's reorganization, the evil imperial court had unexpectedly become prosperous. There were actually quite a few evil cultivation geniuses that had emerged, all rising from the bottom rungs among the heretic cultivators. These geniuses were extremely grateful to the evil king and were quickly taken in by him as his confidants. The evil king did not expect to obtain such an unexpected harvest, so he became even more determined to implement the new laws. Mo Tuo was still inside the world-cleansing glazed pagoda. 80% of his devil soul had lost its demonic chi. However, he had still been a heaven realm expert after all. It would still take some time for him to be fully converted. Now, Mo Tuo spent less time roaring and more time meditating. Buddhist light surged out of his soul and he would recite Buddhist scriptures. Chu Zan was not in a hurry. There was still some time before the Asura ancient land opened. No matter how many factions laid out their plans and how many experts used chess pieces, he would still flip the chessboard with his own plans and actions. Moreover, he was also laying out his plans. Rather than wanting to achieve anything specific, he just wanted to disrupt the chess game and make it impossible for the experts who carefully laid out their plans to do as they pleased. The 5-year milestone finally arrived. Chu Zan was extremely excited as he waited for the system's reward. It had been 5 years, so the reward would be very generous, right? You've stayed in seclusion for 5 years and enjoyed yourself while staying home. You've been rewarded with a pocket dimension. A pocket dimension? Chu Zan was stunned, and then ecstatic. A pocket dimension? This was not something the universe space could compare to. The universe space was just a space created by array formations. There were no plants, creatures, mountains, or rivers in it. The pocket dimension was different. Mountains, rivers, plants, and creatures all existed inside the pocket dimension. Would there also be humans? Since it was a pocket dimension that the system rewarded him with, there probably were not any humans inside. Chu Zan immediately received the reward. The pocket dimension was not considered big. It was slightly larger than the southern region. There were mountains, rivers, and plants and creatures everywhere. There were all kinds of cultivation resources, all kinds of rare treasures, medicines, and natural treasures inside. There was no end to these in sight. Chu Zan became extremely excited. An entrance to the pocket dimension, evolvable, can be opened or closed at any time. Its owner can adjust the time flow inside the pocket dimension to differ from that of the real world. Focusing his thoughts, Chu Zan immediately gained a clear view of the entire pocket dimension. This was a small world that could evolve. He checked the relevant information in the description. To evolve the pocket dimension, one needed a spirit vein or Tao verse. After reading that, Chu Zan could not help but sigh. He was still too poor. He had no problems raising pets, disciples, and servants, but it seemed like he still could not afford to raise a pocket dimension. To evolve the pocket dimension, he needed a lot of spirit veins. Even if he plundered all the resources of the entire southern region and used them to grow the pocket dimension, it would not be able to evolve much. It seemed that the evolution of this pocket dimension would still have to rely on the system's rewards. Apart from the fact that the pocket dimension could evolve, Chu Zan also noticed that he could adjust the time flow within the pocket dimension. To put it bluntly, he was able to change the flow of time in relation to the time in reality. For example, if he stayed inside the pocket dimension for a year, only a day would have passed in reality. However, the time flow difference in the pocket dimension was rather useless for Chuzan. After all, even if he stayed inside it for a year, the system would calculate the rewards based on the flow of time in reality. Currently, the biggest time flow adjustment he could make between the pocket dimension and the real world was 1 year in the former equating to 1 day in the latter. Chuzan's first thought was that, with the pocket dimension, he would be able to train strong people in a very short time. The spiritual power inside the pocket dimension was even richer than in the southern region. Of course, the laws of heaven and earth in the southern region had yet to be restored, which resulted in its relatively low amount of spiritual power. Moreover, cultivation resources were abundant everywhere inside the pocket dimension, and there were countless natural treasures. Chuzan was very excited. Ding Yu and Su Shaner would be able to advance to the truth realm within a very short time. Also, to break through to the Emperor realm, one needed a long time to solidify one's foundation before breaking through. However, with the pocket, the time needed to do that could also be greatly shortened. Once Ding Yu and Su Shaner broke through, Chuzan would receive a cultivation boost reward. According to the system's rules, he had to remain in seclusion at home. He would train his disciples or servants, and his cultivation would increase rapidly. When one of them broke through to a major realm, he would receive a cultivation boost reward. When Ding Yu broke through to the void realm, the system rewarded him with 10 years worth of cultivation. At this moment, Chuzan wanted to take in a few more disciples. However, their levels of talent had to be monstrous enough. The cultivation boost reward the system gave him also mentioned the criteria for the disciple or servant's cultivation to increase rapidly. It could be seen that, in order to receive a cultivation boost reward, the disciple or servant's cultivation speed could not be slow. Chuzan looked at the lucky mystic realms in the courtyard. It had been so long. Why had no one with great luck arrived yet? Should he activate a lucky mystic realm? Chuzan decided to wait a little longer. After obtaining another lucky mystic realm, he would activate one. He would not activate one in the southern region. The current fated person of the southern region, Ding Yu, had already acknowledged him as his teacher. Even if there were other people in the southern region with great luck, they could not compare to Ding Yu. Chuzan had yet to make up his mind on the exact location. He would make the decision after he obtained another lucky mystic realm. He waved his hand and a shimmering door appeared in a corner of the courtyard. It was the door connecting the pocket dimension to reality. When the heavenly spirit cat saw it, it looked at Chuzan with its cute eyes and meowed. Go in. Chuzan waved his hand. The cat's figure flashed as it entered the pocket dimension. The moment it entered the pocket dimension, its body transformed into a huge fierce tiger. Roar. With a roar, the power of the white tiger spread out. The countless demonic beasts and spiritual birds in the pocket dimension instantly trembled in fear. The cat was very satisfied. Crash. The sky-shaking golden rock also entered the pocket dimension. It spread its wings so wide that they almost seemed to cover the sky. It swooped down and instantly grabbed a truth realm demonic beast and tore it into pieces. The spirit-devouring flower also entered the pocket dimension. In an instant, an enormous strange-looking tree stood in between the heavens and the earth. The incomparably dazzling flower swayed, causing the surrounding creatures to be hypnotized, after which they all ran up voluntarily to the flower to be devoured. Roar. On a large mountain in the pocket dimension, a 100-meter-tall giant ape hammered its chest and roared. The giant ape was an apex predator in the pocket dimension. It was at the 5th level of the Emperor realm. Its bloodline was not simple either. There were only 7 Emperor realm creatures in the entire pocket dimension. Although the pocket dimension was only slightly bigger than the southern region, one had to know that the southern region itself was very vast. During the ancient war with the demons, the ley lines collapsed and countless places disappeared into different spaces and dimensions. The current southern region was almost 1,000,000 miles measured from the south to the north. Many places were in a desolate state. There was an enormous tree in the pocket dimension, which was located at the highest peak inside this world. The enormous tree looked very ordinary. It did not look like a spirit plant or a precious tree at all. Its name was the ordinary tree. However, this tree was the most precious treasure inside the pocket dimension. There was only one unique thing about this tree, which was that it could not be destroyed. Whether it was an emperor-level weapon, a heavenly weapon, or even a divine weapon or Tao artifact, none of them could destroy this tree. In fact, not even the bark of the tree could be damaged. However, the name of this tree was the ordinary tree. Like its name, it looked utterly ordinary. Chapter 93. Complete collection of delicacies. Apart from being indestructible and unable to be damaged, the ordinary tree did not seem to be of much use. Although it was sharp, it was unable to damage Dao artifacts, so the ordinary tree could not be used as a weapon. However, it was still a very rare treasure. Chuzan was actually very concerned about this tree. After all, it was the most precious treasure in his pocket dimension. In fact, if it was used properly, the ordinary wood was still very powerful. Although this tree was thousands of meters tall, it was still a sapling and had not fully grown. Even though it was just a sapling, it had already awakened the characteristic of being unable to be damaged. However, for Chuzan, it would not be difficult for him to break its branches. It grew inside the pocket dimension, and Chuzan was the master of the pocket dimension, so he had full control over it. The ordinary tree was part of the reward given by the system in the pocket dimension, so none of its characteristics were effective against Chuzan. Calm down a little, stop causing trouble, and work hard to increase your strength. Chuzan remonstrated the heavenly spirit cat, the sky-shaking golden rock, and the spirit-devouring flower. The cat, bird, and tree all stopped fighting. They did not fight with the giant ape, but instead each found a mountain to occupy. The pocket dimension was rich in resources, and housed countless natural treasures. The spiritual power here was even denser than that of the southern region, so the speed of one's cultivation here would be faster. Chuzan summoned Su Shaner and Ding Yu out of the universe space. This place is a pocket dimension. Go inside and cultivate. Su Shaner and Ding Yu were shocked. Looking at the glittering door, they widened their eyes. There was a pocket dimension inside. Where did this pocket dimension come from? Master, this is. You're making a big fuss over nothing. How can you cultivate the supreme sword like this? It's just a pocket dimension, and you've already lost your composure. What would you do if a peerless beauty from the ancient or modern times appeared in front of you? The state of mind of young people nowadays is really bad. Cultivate the way of the sword well and strive to break through the 3 stages as soon as possible. Chuzan reprimanded him. Ding Yu instantly felt extremely ashamed. In the end, his mental state had still been too immature. He had lost his composure so easily. Master, you're right. Chuzan was in a good mood. He also derived pleasure from training his disciple. Go in then. A year inside is a day outside. Strive to break through to the Emperor realm as soon as possible. Ding Yu lost his composure again. A year in the pocket dimension is equivalent to a day in reality. He was so excited that his face turned red. The pocket dimension was definitely a sacred land for cultivation. You lost your composure again. Chuzan reprimanded him again. Hee, master is right to lecture me. Ding Yu chuckled and quickly entered the pocket dimension. Su Shaner's mouth was wide open, and her face was filled with shock. She came from the prosperous central region, and she was also a descendant of a large family. She was far more knowledgeable than Ding Yu. It was rumored that there was a type of secret realm in the world where people cultivated for 100 years, but, outside in reality, only a year passed. There was once a famous expert who had quickly rose to prominence thanks to one of these peerless secret realms. It was rumored that this type of time secret realms had been left behind by supreme experts. They were extremely rare and hard to come by. They usually also contained those experts' inheritances. After someone entered and activated it, the secret realm would disappear once the time was up. However, this pocket dimension would not disappear. What was more shocking was that this was not a secret realm, but a pocket dimension. Exactly how powerful was this senior? Su Shaner had a premonition that she would soon break through to the Emperor realm, or even the Supreme realm. When that time came, she would return to the central region and suppress the Su family, slapping those B** stards on the face. Those who had mocked her, looked down on her, and humiliated her would all be killed. When that time came, those B** stards who secretly coveted her beauty and had evil intentions about her would all be killed. That detestable sister of hers had actually married her to that disgusting fellow. After she returned, she would marry her sister to a beggar. Then she would force that disgusting fellow who wanted to marry her back then to marry an ugly freak. Thinking back to that time, she felt so disgusted. The more Su Shaner thought about it, the more excited she became. She could not wait to return to the central region to take revenge. The corners of Chuzan's mouth twitched. What was this girl doing? Was she dreaming of rising up and killing everyone? Stop daydreaming. Go inside and roast a sheep for me. Sushannur blushed and said coquettishly, Sir, I still need to cultivate. Can you roast the sheep later? Chuzan ignored her coquettish remark. I think you'd better return to the universe space and stay there. I'll roast it right away. Sushannur looked at Chuzan with a bitter expression. Senior did not show any mercy at all. She hurriedly entered the pocket dimension and saw that, not far away, a sheep was eating grass. She lashed out with her whip. Bah! The sheep lowered its head. Its horns shot out 2 bolts of lightning towards her long whip. Sushannur was shocked. A random grass-eating sheep actually had the strength of a Unity Realm cultivator. After exerting quite a bit of effort, the sheep was finally slaughtered and roasted. It was charred on the outside and tender on the inside. The fragrance assailed her nostrils. Sushannur could not help but tear off a piece of mutton, stuffing it into her mouth. Hiss! It was too delicious. It was much more delicious than the demonic beast meat of the southern region. Moreover, the spiritual power contained within was even more dense and pure. She took the roasted sheep out of the pocket dimension and placed it on the table in front of her before moving to return to the pocket dimension. Due to the time flow difference, only a short time had passed since Sushannur entered, caught the sheep, and roasted it. Have you forgotten your duties? Chuzan glanced at her. How can you comprehend the Great Tao if you're so impatient? One's state of mind is the foundation of comprehending the Great Tao. Sit down and slice the meat. Sushannur took a few deep breaths to calm herself down and then sat down beside Chuzan. Sir, you are right. She took out a small knife and cut off a small piece of meat. Her tender white fingers pinched the piece of meat and fed it to Chuzan's mouth. This is what life should be all about. Chuzan swallowed the meat Sushannur handed to him and sighed. You are enjoying the comfortable time at home. You can also enjoy the luxuries of home after comprehending it. You have been rewarded with the complete collection of delicacies and the time illusion technique. A random reward from the system was triggered. Chuzan was pleasantly surprised. He swallowed the mutton that Sushannur handed him and waved her off. Sushannur ran into the pocket dimension excitedly. He first examined the complete collection of delicacies. Inside the complete collection of delicacies were all sorts of materials and recipes for the delicacies of this world, as well as the methods of cooking them. These delicacies were made with top-tier heavenly materials and earthly treasures. One had to know that many heavenly materials and earthly treasures were very delicious. Even the rare delicacies in the world were also rare treasures. In the complete collection of delicacies, aside from the materials and recipes, there were also seeds that could be cultivated. Chuzan called Sushannur out. Sir, Sushannur had a wronged expression on her face. Why did he call her for everything? Ding Yu was his disciple, so it was only right for him to serve Sir. Plant all of these in the pocket dimension. Also, learn how to cook these recipes. Chuzan handed all the items in the complete collection of delicacies to Sushannur. As a servant, she would be unqualified if she did not know how to cook. Okay, Sushannur took the complete collection of delicacies and entered the pocket dimension once more. When she opened it, she was stunned. There were countless rare and legendary treasures inside. There were also countless rare and precious treasures that she did not know about or had never heard of. She looked at the matching recipes and was stunned. These recipes were not simple. They recorded everything from the processing of the materials to the matching of all kinds of rare treasures with each other, as well as how to fully bring out their effects and flavors. If she stewed a pot of these rare dishes every day, she would break through to the truth realm in no time at all. Chapter 94. Powerful Time Illusion Technique. Sushannur immediately began to prepare a pot of rare and precious delicacies. She pulled Ding Yu over to do the hard work. There were many recipes, so Sushannur chose the simplest one to start with. Moreover, many of the rare and precious treasures inside were too high level and could not be eaten yet given her low cultivation level. Therefore, she had to specially choose the rare and precious treasures that were of a level that her cultivation level could withstand to cook. The seeds inside were distributed to be planted. Moreover, she had the sky-shaking golden rock and the spirit-devouring flower watch over them. As for the heavenly spirit cat, it would act cute. Sushannur loved it more, so she did not ask it to do any hard work. In fact, there was no need to watch over the seeds planted in the pocket dimension. The local creatures in the pocket dimension would not destroy the rare seeds. After all, they were Chuzan's belongings. Without his permission, those creatures would not dare to destroy them. After Chuzan finished examining the complete collection of delicacies and sent Sushannur away with it, he could not wait to examine the time illusion technique. The time illusion technique is derived from the Great Tao of Time. The user can stay in the Great Tao of Time, leaving an illusion in reality, and can also use the illusion to communicate with reality. After reading through the information about the time illusion technique, Chuzan took a deep breath. It was too powerful. What did it mean to live in the Great Tao of Time and use the illusion to communicate with reality? It meant that no one could hurt him, unless one could slash through time itself. He would be able to live in the past, present or future. For example, his body could exist in time 3 seconds ago and leave an illusion in the present. No attack would be able to reach Chuzan. This would be because Chuzan's body existed in the past, so no matter how powerful the attack was, it would not be able to touch him. It was impossible for the attack to reach the past. Since he was not in the present, he naturally would not be affected by the attack. It could be said that Chuzan would truly be undefeatable after mastering the time illusion technique. Unless of course the other party could slash into the future or the past. However, this was not something that a Heaven Realm expert could do. Even a Divine Realm expert could not do it. The time illusion technique was derived from the Great Tao of Time. Chuzan's heart began beating violently. This time, the system reward that he had accidentally triggered was too surprising. As expected, the rewards that he had accidentally triggered did not follow the rules. Given Chuzan's current strength, he should not be able to obtain a high-level reward such as a Great Tao technique. Only by accidentally triggering it would he be able to obtain such high-level rewards. He then chose to receive the reward. A hazy light enveloped Chuzan, causing him to fall into a mysterious state. His body swayed, as if he had already left the present, leaving only an illusion in reality. It was called an illusion, but in reality, it was no different from a real person. A day soon passed. During this time, Su Shaner came out and saw that Chuzan was resting with his eyes closed. He did not seem to want her to brief him about the happenings in the southern region, so she happily went back to the pocket dimension to cultivate. She naturally did not notice that Chuzan was in a state of enlightenment. While in the state of enlightenment, Chuzan would not be disturbed by external things, so he remained under the protection of the system. It was not the first time Su Shaner saw Chuzan resting with his eyes closed like this, so the moment she saw Chuzan in this state, she happily went back to the pocket dimension to cultivate. 3 days had passed before Chuzan woke up from the state of enlightenment. This was the longest period of enlightenment he had ever undergone due to the instigation of the system. From this, one could tell just how profound and powerful the time illusion technique was. Chuzan's thoughts were stirred, and his body instantly entered the Great Tao of Time, leaving behind an illusion in the present. The illusion was no different from his actual self in real life. He could also come into contact with everything in reality through the illusion, and the illusion could even act in his place in reality. However, after performing the time illusion technique for 1 or 2 seconds, Chuzan felt as if his entire body was about to collapse. His divine soul felt exhausted. He hurriedly took out a medicinal pill and swallowed it to recover. The time illusion technique was indeed powerful, but the spiritual power consumption was also extremely high. The burden the technique placed on the user's divine soul was especially terrifying. With Chuzan's cultivation at the 4th level of the Supreme Realm, and the strength of his divine soul which had far surpassed the Supreme Realm, he could only sustain it for 1 or 2 seconds. At the moment, the time illusion technique could not make Chuzan invincible. He could only use it to avoid life-threatening attacks at critical moments. If he used the time illusion technique to deal with a strong enemy, it would only drag him down. After all, he could only maintain it for a short time, and it would drain nearly all of his spiritual power and will. I need to at least be in the Heaven Realm to be able to turn defeat into victory and surprise a strong enemy with this technique. It's still too difficult to use the time illusion technique in the Supreme Realm. Chuzan was very clear that the power of the time illusion technique was not something that a Supreme Realm could use. As it was a reward from the system, he had completely mastered the technique with the system's aid. This was why it was possible to use it even though he had not reached the Heaven Realm. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, even Divine Realm cultivators would not be able to use it. Chuzan had comprehended the time illusion technique, a Great Tao technique. Although he could not use it properly now, he could still try to create a low-level version of the technique. For example, how to make his attacks faster within his domain, or how to slow down the enemy's attacks, and so on. Chuzan decided to give it a try. Creating a low-level version of the time-related secret technique should not be too big of a problem. For example, he could create a heaven and earth minor technique. Chuzan did it as soon as he thought of it. He began to think about how he could make slight changes in time within his domain. For example, he could speed up his attacks, slow down the enemy's attacks, and even freeze the enemy for an instant. The power of the domain was based on the laws, and the process of improving one's domain involved constantly perfecting these laws. He could view the domain as a miniature world that he had constructed, and he was the ruler of this miniature world. Within one's own domain, it did not seem difficult to disrupt the flow of time for a brief instant. In battles between experts at the Emperor realm and above, the collision of domains was extremely crucial. Whoever's domain overpowered the other parties would obtain the final victory. In addition, the types of domains and ways people used them were different. What Chuzan needed to do was to slow down the opponent's attacks while simultaneously speeding his own attacks. In fact, he could even disrupt the time inside his opponent's domain, which would throw them off their rhythm. Creating such a powerful secret art was much more difficult than creating a normal minor art of heaven and earth. Chuzan gave Sushaner a few days off so that she would not disturb him. This was the first time Chuzan had truly devoted himself to researching a secret art. For the first time, he frowned and thought hard about it, and he kept trying. Occasionally, there would be a wave of profound fluctuations undulating around Chuzan's body. After a few days of hard thinking, he had finally gained some insights. However, he still needed to test things out. Therefore, he called out the heavenly spirit cat and the sky-shaking golden rock. He instructed the two pets to use their domain powers to fight against him. Chuzan suppressed his cultivation to the Emperor realm. The heaven spirit cat's domain revolved around the concepts of lightness and agility. It mainly contained a type of space attribute which gave it the ability to travel at an extremely fast speed. The sky-shaking golden rock's domain was majestic and heavy, yet it also had the ability to travel at an extremely fast speed. Chapter 95, Time Vessel. After a few days of trial and error, Chuzan finally figured out how to use the time technique to influence the enemy within his domain. The heavenly spirit cat's domain was activated, and it pounced forward at an extremely fast speed. With a wave of its small claw, one could already see a barrage of claw marks. The sky-shaking golden rock spread its wings, and sharp golden light flew out like a blade, piercing through heaven and earth to attack Chuzan. This battle took place within the universe space. If it was in a small courtyard, the entirety of the Chu family's territory would have disappeared from the attacks. Chuzan's eyes flashed, and a mysterious light appeared around his body as he flashed over to the heavenly spirit cat. The cat, which was originally pouncing over at high speed, seemed to have been affected by some kind of law of time. Its body actually paused for a moment, and its attack also likewise paused. Within that brief moment, Chuzan's hand wrapped itself around the cat's neck. A mysterious light once again appeared, flashing past the golden blade that the sky-shaking golden rock had shot forth. The blade, which originally seemed to be cutting through heaven and earth, paused for a moment. By this time, Chuzan had already dodged the attack. The mysterious light once again appeared, flashing as it shot itself into the sky-shaking golden rock's body, causing it to also pause for a moment. At this moment, the victor was decided. The heavenly spirit cat and the sky-shaking golden rock stared at Chuzan in shock. One had to know that Chuzan had suppressed his cultivation to the first level of the Emperor realm, yet he had easily captured them. The mysterious light was especially strange. It seemed to be able to affect time. This was not a power that could be used by an Emperor realm cultivator. Haha, I'm indeed the most talented person in the world. Chuzan was extremely excited. He originally wanted to create a minor technique, but in the end he created the foundation of what would be a grand technique. Once his cultivation increased, this grand technique would be no weaker than the time illusion technique. Currently, although it was only a minor technique and could only be used inside his own domain, it formed the foundation of the time-based grand technique, so it had a lot of room for growth. Time theft. Chuzan named it the time theft technique, as it stole the enemy's time. You have created and comprehended the foundation of a time-based grand technique. You have proven the wisdom and intelligence of a homebound otaku, and have been rewarded with the time vessel. What a pleasant surprise, the system had actually come out to reward him again. Moreover, the system had also recognized his creation as the foundation of a time-based grand technique. From this, it could be seen that this secret art that he had created possessed endless potential and could directly lead its user toward the great Tao of time. He then examined the time vessel that the system had rewarded him with. It was a small crystal clear and gorgeous boat that did not seem to exist in reality. It looked ethereal and exuded a hallucinatory vibe. The time vessel is a time-based treasure. It can wander in the long river of time unaffected by the erosion of time. Hiss. This was a super awesome treasure. Chu Zan was excited. A treasure that could wander in the long river of time probably did not exist in the 9 zones and 50 regions. However, to Chu Zan, the time vessel was not of much use at the moment. He could not go to the river of time either. His cultivation realm was far too low. Visiting the river of time required an extremely high cultivation realm. Even though he had mastered the time illusion technique and created the time theft technique, he still could not comprehend the river of time. Still, a treasure like the time vessel would eventually come in handy one day. Chu Zan was fascinated by the thought of one day sailing on an ethereal boat and wandering the river of time. That was the image of a true immortal in his heart, and the goal that he pursued. After creating the time-based secret technique, Chu Zan returned to his previous state. The heavenly spirit cat and the sky-shaking golden rock returned to the pocket dimension to continue their cultivation. Su Shaner also went back to her normal routine. Every day, she would organize the information sent over by the Black Moon Tower and would brief Chu Zan on whatever she found relevant or interesting. Ding Yu was cultivating in seclusion in the pocket dimension. He was trying his best to break through the second stage of the Way of the Sword while comprehending the heaven-reaching sword technique. He would only leave the pocket dimension to ask Chu Zan questions about parts of the cultivation technique that he did not understand. Su Shaner, on the other hand, needed to find enough time to organize the information from the Black Moon Tower for Chu Zan and brief him, but also cook delicacies. Looking at Su Shaner, Chu Zan made an exception and allowed her to enter a period of closed-door cultivation to break through. He was looking forward to the cultivation boost reward that the system would provide after she broke through. Ding Yu was also about to break through to the Unity realm. After all, he had been cultivating inside the pocket dimension for several years. The pocket dimension was like a cheat code when it came to training disciples. 100-year Emperor Realm expert would be born in only 100 days. Of course, despite spending 100 years in a pocket dimension, it was actually impossible to break through to the Emperor Realm so quickly. It would take a longer time for them to comprehend and consolidate their foundations. Chu Zan was eager to take in a few more talented disciples to help him improve his strength quickly. However, the matter of taking in disciples could not be rushed. If one was not a peerless heavens blessed, Chu Zan would not even bother to take a look. The cultivation speed of ordinary disciples was too slow. Not only would he not obtain the cultivation boost reward from the system, but he would also have to waste resources training them. Great Yan County, Great Qin Dynasty. Chu Yun had arrived at the territory of Great Yan County, and was searching for spirit herbs on a huge mountain. Suddenly, 2 figures walked over from afar. One of them was dressed in black, whose body exuded an evil aura. He was a heretic cultivator. She immediately became vigilant. However, she was not afraid. She had the secret protection of an expert of the Truth Realm behind her. The Chu family originally wanted to send out a Unity Realm family elder to protect her, but after learning that Chu Yun had the secret protection of an expert of the Truth Realm, they did not arrange for an expert to follow her around. The little evil king waved the folding fan in his hand in a very flirtatious manner. His slightly pale face exuded a demonic charm. The ruthless little evil king had always been known for being cruel and abnormal. In the evil imperial court, he was an exception. He was also the only evil king candidate in the line of evil kings who did not practice evil techniques. If he successfully became the next evil king, then he would become the only evil king in the history of the evil imperial court who did not practice evil techniques. Although the little evil king was not an evil cultivator, in terms of ruthlessness, cruelty, and perversion, countless evil cultivators could not hold a candle to him. Seeing Chu Yun picking spirit herbs from afar, the protector of the little evil king, Wang Hang, could not help but feel pity for this little girl Chu Yun. Meeting the little evil king was bad luck. The little evil king's eyes lit up, and he quickly stepped forward. "Greetings, little girl," he cupped his hands and bowed in a scholarly manner. Wang Hang was stunned. What was going on? When did the little evil king become so easy to talk to and accommodating? Could it be that he was trying out a new trick? Chu Yun frowned. The little evil king did not give off good vibes. Although he did not cultivate evil techniques, he was still evil. He had a bewitching smile on his face. Even though he tried his best to pretend to be gentle, he still could not change his bewitching temperament. It was obvious that he was not a good person. Chu Yun put the spiritual medicine into her storage bag and turned around to leave. She did not have the slightest intention of interacting with the little evil king. Wang Heng gave Chu Yun a pitying look. If she ignored the little evil king like that, she would definitely end up in a miserable state. The little evil king's figure flashed, and he blocked Chu Yun's path. He tidied up his clothes and put a devilish smile on his face. He bowed again in a scholarly manner and said, "Miss, I am being very polite. There must be something wrong with this person's brain. Move aside, I don't have time to deal with you." Chu Yun glared at him. "Miss, please." The little evil king moved aside and made a pleasant gesture. Wang Heng was dumbfounded. What was going on? Did the little evil king change his ways? Chapter 96. My name is Wang Luo and I am an alchemist. From today onward, I want to be a pure and kind person. The little evil king looked at Chu Yun's retreating back and said with a serious face. Wang Heng, the vicious and merciless little evil king actually wanted to be a kind person. Wang Heng wondered if his ears had stopped working. Let's go. The little evil king followed behind Chu Yun. Every time Chu Yun was about to pick spirit herbs, he would rush up immediately to court her. Wang Heng felt that the world had changed. The little evil king was actually trying to court a woman. Your Highness, what are you doing? My heart was moved. The moment I saw her, my heart was moved. ... The little evil king said with a sigh. Wang Heng felt that there was something wrong with the little evil king's brain. How could this savage fellow fall in love with a woman? One had to know that he had torn up countless beautiful women and scattered their flesh and blood into his courtyard pond to feed the fishes. A pervert who had a vicious hobby and had killed countless women suddenly said that he had fallen in love with a certain woman. He had fallen in love with a certain woman. Other than there being a problem with his brain, there was no other possible explanation. Wang Heng sighed. The little evil king, who was always saying that cultivating evil techniques would easily cause problems with one's brain, had ended up with a problem with his brain instead. Miss, I'm really a good person. You have to believe me. Miss, you're an alchemist, right? I have spirit herbs here, I'll give them all to you. Watching the little evil king running around Chu Yun, Wang Heng decided that he should not follow him openly. If one day, the little evil king felt that he was an eyesore, it would not be easy for him to escape punishment. Chu Zan looked at the intelligence report in his hands. His mind was filled with question marks. Was the little evil king not rumored to be an extremely savage and perverted fellow? How could a person who tore delicate ladies apart little by little to feed the fishes be normal? Why was he like a puppy seeking attention next to Chu Yun? Was there something wrong with his brain? Should he get someone to expel him from Chu Yun's side? Chu Yun would not fall for such a guy. Was she afraid that he had ill intentions? On second thought, so what if the little evil king had ill intentions? He had not even reached the Emperor realm, so what could he accomplish? The Emperor-level weapon in Chu Yun's body contained a strand of his power. Moreover, the Emperor-level weapon had a certain degree of spirituality and would automatically protect her. Chu Zan asked the Black Moon Tower to reveal the little evil king's identity to Chu Yun and he did not interfere further. Chu Yun was no longer a child, and she would have her own ways of dealing with things. Outside Chu County, the figure of a dejected youth could be seen slowly walking. His face was dirty and downcast. There were still some traces of blood on his tattered clothes. Dejected and disheveled aptly described his appearance. He was only 15 or 16 years old, but his eyes were filled with a determined and unyielding expression. His strength was nothing worth shouting about. He had only reached the 6th level of the Profound Realm. Given his age, cultivating to the 6th level of the Profound Realm was not considered bad in the southern region. This is Chu County, the territory of the Chu family, and its position in the state of Qin is rather special, the youth muttered to himself. What I lack now are spiritual medicines and pill refinement resources. If I can think of a way to join the Chu family, I should be able to gain their attention. The southern region is barren, and the only pill refining sect, the Heavenly Cauldron Mountain, has a rather complicated background. It's not suitable for me. The Chu family controls Chu County, so they don't lack resources. If I join the Chu family, I will definitely be able to earn their attention. With my pill refinement capabilities, they will be able to raise their strength quickly, and they will also be able to rely on these pills to obtain more resources. Furthermore, they will be able to raise their level of influence in the Great Qin dynasty. The young man made his decision. He headed towards a city in Chu County and went straight to the city lord's manor. My name is Wang Luo, and I am an alchemist. I wish to meet the city lord. The city lords of every city in Chu County were all members of the Chu clan. The guards of the city lord's manor frowned when they saw this dirty and down-and-out young man. He called himself an alchemist. They did not believe him at all. If he really was an alchemist, why would he be in such a state? Moreover, the Chu family already had a genius alchemist, Miss Chu Yun. They did not need any external alchemists. The Chu family itself was also nurturing alchemists. They had already nurtured quite a number of alchemists who had become proficient in basic alchemy. Because of that, the number of pills in the Chu family had increased, and the treatment of the guards of the Chu family had also become better. Although the guards looked down on Wang Luo in their hearts, they did not directly expel him. They were just guards, so they could not bear the responsibility of expelling an alchemist. Therefore, the first thing they did was to report this to the steward of the city lord's manor. Wait a moment. When the steward of the city lord's manor heard this, he walked out and immediately frowned. You are an alchemist? Yes, I can refine spirit pills. The refining success rate of my spirit pills is around 15%, Wang Luo said proudly. To the Wang family of the northern region, he was a good-for-nothing, an abandoned child who had been banished. In a barren land like the southern region, however, especially to a small family like the Chu family, he would definitely be seen as a pill-refining genius. He was only 16 years old this year. The steward's face was full of disbelief, even though he felt that no one would dare to deceive the Chu family. Just seeing Wang Luo's dirty appearance greatly reduced his impression of him. He did not have a good first impression of this youth. If things had been the same as they had been in the past, regardless of whether the matter was true or not, he would have reported it to the city lord immediately and verified the authenticity of the youth's claims. However, the current Chu family did not need to any more. With the pill-refining genius Miss Chu Yun around, the Chu family did not need to pay too much attention to external alchemists anymore. In fact, they might even have to guard against the other party stealing the pill-refining techniques and pill formulas of the Chu family. Currently, under Miss Chu Yun's guidance, there were as many as 3 members of the Chu family who were able to refine spirit pills. Furthermore, the success rate of refining ordinary pills was 60%, while the success rate for refining high-quality ones was 30%. The rest of the people who mastered basic alchemy skills numbered more than 30 people. They were able to easily refine profound pills, and their success rate of refining spirit pills was between 10% to 20%. The nephew of one of his old brothers was recruited into the Chu family's pill refining division because he had the talent to refine pills. Moreover, his relationship with a young miss of the Chu family's extended family was also recognized. It could be said that his future was now boundless. Seeing that you're quite down and out, take these few spirit crystals. Hopefully they will help you get by. Young man, you should leave. After saying that, the steward threw a few crystals to Wang Luo and waved his hand. Wang Luo was stunned, and then became furious. He took a deep breath and did not pick up the crystals on the ground. Instead, he turned around and left for the next city. Just like that, Wang Luo went to a few cities in a row, but was refused every single time. He did not even get the chance to show off. The Chu family looks down on others. Wang Luo felt extremely humiliated. However, when he thought about how he had not even met a single person in charge of the Chu family, he felt a sense of unwillingness. Other than the Chu family, he could not think of any other faction that was more suitable for him to join. Gritting his teeth, Wang Luo headed straight for the Chu family's territory. He had already thought it through. After meeting the person in charge, he would refine a cauldron of medicinal pills on the spot, shocking the Chu family bumpkins. Wang Luo could not help but imagine the expressions of Chu family members who would see him refine those medicinal pills. Their faces would be filled with shock and joy as they welcomed him in, treating him as a distinguished guest. The more he thought about it, the more pleased he became. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He was born in the Wang family of the northern region's alchemy aristocratic family. Although he was regarded as a good-for-nothing and banished, his origins were not something that a small family from the southern region could look down upon. Chapter 97. Mental State Collapse. Wang Luo rushed to the Chu family's territory without stopping. My name is Wang Luo and I am an alchemist. I am seeking refuge with the Chu family. Please inform them, Wang Luo spoke with a hint of arrogance. The guard looked at the dirty and downtrodden youth in front of him and was incomparably astonished. This person was actually an alchemist. Moreover, he had come to seek refuge with the Chu family. His eyes were filled with doubt. Chu Yun's status as a genius alchemist was no longer a secret among the Chu family members. She had even nurtured the Chu family's pill refining division. The Chu family was relying on pill refining to raise their status in the Great Qin dynasty, squeezing out the He clan, which had always been skilled in pill refinement. In order to become the Great Qin dynasty's pill refining pillar, this matter was extremely important. An external alchemist was now seeking refuge with them. Could this person be a swindler? Logically speaking, no one would dare to deceive the Chu family like this. After all, their pill refinement skill would be evident after a single experiment. However, in this world, anything could happen. No matter how inconceivable it was, no matter how brainless the matter seemed, it was possible for it to happen. After all, there were too many people in this world, and there would always be some nutcases out there. Wang Luo saw the doubt in the guard's eyes and sneered in his heart. I'll give you a big surprise later. He deliberately did not change his appearance and still looked down and out. It was all for the sake of successfully refining the pill that would shock the Chu family. He took out the pill furnace and took out a few stalks of spirit herbs. A trace of heartache flashed in his eyes. These were the last few spirit herbs he had. His spiritual power stimulated the fire crystal stone, and flames gushed out. With a focused expression, he began to refine the medicinal pills. He wanted to refine a bottle of spirit pills. A guard hurriedly left to report. Not long after, Chu Tianming and the higher-ups of the Chu family arrived. This group included a few people from the Chu family's pill refining division. The Chu family's pill refining division had searched the entire Chu county before selecting people with pill refining talent. Including the direct descendants of the Chu family, there were only about 30 people in total in the division. From this, it could be seen just how scarce people with pill refining talent were. Under Chu Yun's guidance and training, they had already grasped basic pill refining techniques and were able to refine profound pills and spirit pills. If they wanted to advance further, they would need to accumulate experience. It was impossible to do so in a short period of time. Even so, by relying on the pill formulas left behind by Chu Yun, the Chu family's pill refining division had managed to refine enough profound pills and spirit pills to raise the overall strength of their guards by one level. Furthermore, by selling these pills, they had been able to obtain even more resources. The Chu family's rise was inevitable. When they heard that there was a young man who claimed to be an alchemist seeking refuge with the Chu family, Chu Tianming and the others were curious and came over to spectate. When Wang Luo saw so many people spectating, the corners of his mouth curled up. It was finally time for him to perform. They were all here to be shocked. He envisioned the Chu family's upper echelons treating him as a distinguished guest and welcoming him into the ancestral residence. He was already thinking about what conditions he should bring up. First of all, a steady supply of pill refinement materials was indispensable. The Chu family would have to gather the required materials for him. Once the materials were gathered and his body's flaws were resolved, he would soar into the heavens. The Wang family of the northern region was waiting to be trampled under his feet. Wang Luo was in a good mood, but his expression remained very focused as he began to refine the pill. At the beginning, it proceeded very smoothly. However, when it came to the final stages of pill refinement, Wang Luo's chest started feeling stuffy, and his meridians started throbbing in pain. His spiritual energy was not circulating smoothly. His body seemed to be missing something, and he could not continue refining the pill according to his expectations. Damn it, it's happening again. His face was flushed red, and beads of sweat kept dripping down. Wang Luo gritted his teeth and continued to persevere. At the same time, he adjusted his pill refinement technique. He moved from the more advanced pill refinement technique to a more ordinary pill refinement technique. Huff, huff, he could not help but start to pant. Hold it in, I must not fail. Wang Luo gritted his teeth and persevered, ignoring the intense pain in his body. It was precisely because of these unknown flaws in his body that Wang Luo's success rate in refining pills was not high. Furthermore, he was unable to use any brilliant pill refinement techniques. His understanding of the Tao of alchemy was clearly comparable to that of a master, and he had even figured out a pill refinement path that belonged solely to him. However, due to the unknown flaws in his body, all these kinds of brilliant pill refinement techniques were unable to be used. Furthermore, his pill refinement process could not be extended past a certain length. In the Wang family, he had always been regarded as trash. Furthermore, he had been defeated by a pawn in a pill battle and humiliated by the members of the Wang family. His original marriage engagement was also cancelled. He was regarded as a disgrace by the Wang family and was directly expelled. Must hold on. Wang Luo's eyes were red. He endured the burning pain in his body and methodically used his alchemy techniques. This batch of spirit pills would definitely succeed. He had persevered until now with his strong will. There was no problem with the completion of the pill. Moreover, there might be 1 or 2 high-quality pills. Right at this moment, among the surrounding Chu family members, a direct descendant of the Chu family in the pill refining division shook his head and said, "His alchemy ability is rubbish. It's just a batch of spirit pills. Is there a need to work so hard? Look at him, his face and eyes are red. He's clearly reaching his limit. He's forcing himself. Right, if it were me, even if I didn't succeed, my face wouldn't be so red and I wouldn't be panting like an ox. This won't do. His endurance is too poor," another member of the pill refining division chimed in. "Yeah, his endurance isn't good. His alchemy path has actually reached its peak. There's no value in cultivating him." The remaining members of the pill refining division echoed their sentiments. Chu Tianming seemed to be deep in thought as he said, "So you're saying that he's a pill refining trash?" "Yes, that's right. Although he's young, from the amount of potential talent he's exhibiting, I can tell that he's already reached his peak. It's impossible for him to advance any further. There's no doubt that he's a piece of trash. He probably thinks that the Chu family is gullible. He even came here to show off his half-baked skills." Pung! The pill furnace exploded. Pooh! Wang Luo spat out a mouthful of blood. His state of mind had collapsed. The sound of people around him shaking their heads and sighing, mocking, and poking fun at him pierced into his heart like a bayonet. In the Wang family of the northern region, he was regarded as a good-for-nothing piece of trash. He had originally thought that he would be able to show off his might once he came to the small Chu family in the barren southern region. In the end, he was still ridiculed as a good-for-nothing piece of trash. He had been about to successfully refine the spirit pills, but his disordered mental state threw his spiritual power into disorder. The pill furnace instantly exploded. The pill refining was ruined. Bang! Wang Luo collapsed to the ground. His eyes stared at the sky lifelessly. At this moment, he wanted to cry. Why did the heavens have to torture him like this? He had top-notch talent when it came to pill refining, but also a body with unknown flaws, which resulted in his inability to display his talent. Too pitiful. The members of the Chu family's pill refining division shook their heads and sighed. The branch family members of the Chu family, who had a 30% success rate when it came to refining spirit pills, walked out, took out the pill furnace, and poured in some spirit herbs. "Kid, look, the pill refinement process should be done this way. Your technique is too bad. Your process isn't stable, and your endurance isn't good either." He could finally teach others, so he took this chance to show off. When he was faced with Chu Yun, he felt that he was a wastrel. However, in front of Wang Luo, he instantly felt that he was a genius. An hour later, a batch of spirit pills was produced. "Did you see that? That's how the pills are refined." Pooh! Wang Luo spat out another mouthful of blood. Looking at the smooth process of refining pills, he realized that what he had done just now was akin to clowning around. Chapter 98. Innate Pill Meridians. Wang Luo's face was ashen as he lay on the ground. He felt that his life no longer held any meaning. Even a small family in such a barren land like the southern region could step on him and rub his face on the ground. He even felt that he was truly a good-for-nothing piece of trash. Although the Wang family of the northern region was an aristocratic clan with a long history of studying the Tao of alchemy, they did not know how to solve the inexplicable defects in his body. He was destined to be reduced to a poor abandoned child, a small pawn among the common people. Wang Luo was confused. He did not know where he should go or how he could resolve the inexplicable defects in his body. Even a small family like the Chu family did not value his talent or potential. He did not have the qualifications to seek refuge with a bigger family, or even an alchemy sect. "Sigh, it looks like life has not been easy for you. I'll give you these 10,000 crystals." Looking at the desolate young man who was lying on the ground with a hopeless expression, Chu Tianming sighed. Life was not easy for this young man. He had only learned some half-baked skills, yet he had tried to come here to cheat others out of a living. If he had appeared a few years earlier while Chu Yun was still secretly studying alchemy, the Chu family might have really valued him and given him preferential treatment. Looking at Wang Luo's downtrodden appearance, Chu Tianming shook his head. He did not plan to pursue the matter of him coming here to cheat them. He instead gave him some money. If he were to rise up one day, he would at least remember the good deeds of the Chu family. 10,000 crystals was but a pittance to the current Chu family. The storage bag containing 10,000 crystals was placed next to Wang Luo's body, and Chu Tianming and the others left. Wang Luo lay on the ground, tears of sorrow flowing down from his reddened eyes. I'm a good-for-nothing piece of trash. So I'm really a good-for-nothing piece of trash. Even if he was expelled by the Wang family and had his marriage engagement broken off by a small family, his arrogance and pride had not diminished in the slightest. He firmly believed that he could rise up. He wanted to become a world-renowned expert in the Tao of alchemy. He wanted to make the Wang family regret their actions. He wanted to make the people who broke off the marriage engagement feel endless regret. In the end, Wang Luo discovered that he was really a good-for-nothing piece of trash. His dreams of ascension were nothing more than self-deception. Seeing Wang Luo lying on the ground with a deathly pale expression and not moving at all, a nearby guard felt speechless. Get up. Compared to the chosen ones of the Chu family, you might be a good-for-nothing piece of trash, but there are many more out there who are in worse situations. If your talent in pill refinement isn't good enough, then don't refine pills. How old are you? You're already at the 6th level of the profound realm at your age. Your talent is much higher than mine, so what's there to be upset about? Wang Luo felt even more bitterness in his heart when he heard this. How could a mere guard understand his ambitions? He staggered to his feet and looked at the bag of spirit crystals. After hesitating for a moment, he took the bag. Had it been his previous self, he would not have accepted it. His pride made it impossible for him to accept the charity of others. However, now that he had realized that he was just a good-for-nothing piece of trash, what was the point of being prideful? He was practically penniless. This was not the time to be arrogant. Wang Luo staggered away. His eyes were lifeless and aimless. When the guard saw Wang Luo leaving, he opened his mouth to remind him, but he eventually shook his head and stayed silent instead. A mere 6th-level profound stage martial artist would not be able to stir up any waves in the Chu family's territory. Moreover, he was not headed toward the core area of the Chu family's territory, but the outskirts. Naturally, what happened in the Chu family's territory did not escape Chu Zan's attention. The kid had been slapped in the face instead of succeeding in a cool fashion. After such a long time had passed, a person with great luck had finally arrived. Chu Zan calmly waited as he watched Wang Luo stumble over to the small courtyard. His second disciple was here. The Heaven's Secrets origin probing technique was used, revealing Wang Luo's origins. Chu Zan was speechless. Why were all the fated persons abandoned by their families? On second thought, perhaps it was due to their status as fated persons. The family he belonged to did not have enough resources and could not bear his fate, resulting in him becoming an abandoned child who was expelled. Wang Luo is the fated person of the current generation of the northern region and the illegitimate son of the Wang family, an aristocratic family specializing in the Tao of alchemy. He was born with pill meridians, and has extremely high talent in the Tao of alchemy. When he was young, he was attacked by an evil person, and his pill meridians were accidentally severed. Wang Luo was born with pill meridians, and his talent in the Tao of alchemy was outstanding. Unfortunately, when he was young, he had been attacked by an evil person, and his pill meridians were accidentally severed. Although he had excellent talent, thanks to his severed pill meridians, he was unable to use it. Pill meridians were like Ding Yu's Heaven's Will Sword Pulse. They were considered a special talent and also a special type of constitution that was rarely seen in the world. Therefore, even the Wang family, an aristocratic family that focused on studying the Tao of alchemy, did not discover Wang Luo's natural pill meridians. Otherwise, they would have done everything possible to reconnect his pill meridians. Although he was an illegitimate, as long as Wang Luo's father was not a retard, he would not abandon such an outstanding son. Wang Luo had been attacked when he was young. This matter seemed somewhat special. It seemed that it had not been done by someone from the Wang family, but was rather related to his mother. 3 years ago, Wang Luo's mother had left home to find a way to solve his body's flaws. Since then, there had been no trace of her. Wang Luo's situation took a turn for the worse as well. The people who had schemed against him back then actually did not know that he had natural pill meridians. However, because they had severely injured Wang Luo back then, his pill meridians had unexpectedly been severed. What a tragic fellow. Moreover, Chu Zan could also see that Wang Luo had been crushed in a pill battle with someone else, causing the Wang family to believe that he had completely disgraced the Wang family's pill Tao. Expelling him was in itself a plot against him. His fiancée had someone else she fancied, so she planned this debacle to find an excuse to break off her marriage engagement with Wang Luo. As expected of a fated person, He had unexpectedly come to the southern region and even ran over to the Chu family's territory. Wang Luo was walking in a daze when he spotted a small courtyard. His footsteps paused, and he hesitated in his heart as to whether or not he should stay in the small courtyard. If he used the excuse of rewarding the Chu family for their spirit crystals and refined some medicinal pills for the Chu family, he would be able to stay in the Chu family. He would then have a place to stay and slowly search for a solution to his body's defects. At this moment, a voice entered his ears. "Young man, do you feel that your future is uncertain? Do you feel that you have lost your direction in life? Are you willing to remain downtrodden, exiled, abandoned, and reduced to being a piece of trash? Do you ever think of rising up, to make those who once looked down on you feel regret?" Wang Luo's body trembled as he looked towards the small courtyard. "Senior, who are you?" "I am known as the beacon of hope for lost souls, the savior of all the trash in the universe. Young man, as long as you are trash, if you study under me, you will make those who once abandoned you feel regret." Wang Luo's face was filled with shock. He had a feeling that this senior was not being very serious. He swallowed his saliva, and his heart pounded rapidly. "Senior, I became trash because of a flaw in my body. No matter what the reason is, as long as you're trash, you are worthy of being saved by me. You can be reborn." Chu Zan's voice was ethereal, as if it had emerged from ancient times. He had used a small time-based technique. Of course, he had used it inside his domain. To him, fooling Wang Luo, a mere profound realm cultivator, was a piece of cake. Wang Luo was shocked and excited. Had he encountered an unimaginable expert? A great opportunity. Wang Luo hurriedly entered the small courtyard. Junior Wang Luo greets senior. As soon as he entered the small courtyard, he wanted to bow. "Kneel down and kowtow. Acknowledge me as your master." Wang Luo slightly raised his gaze and saw 7-colored divine light flashing around. A figure that exuded heaven-shaking power sat upright on the chair. Plop! Wang Luo was so shocked that he directly knelt down. Chapter 99, Heavenly Void Fire. Wang Luo knew that the turning point of his life had arrived. This was his great opportunity. Disciple Wang Luo pays respect to master. Dong, dong, dong. Wang Luo fiercely kowtowed 3 times until his forehead became red and swollen. These kowtows made Chu Zan very satisfied. He even heard the dong, dong, dong sounds from his very sincere kowtows. You stayed in seclusion, yet a fated person from the northern region has come knocking on your door after traveling through the mountains and rivers. The reward is the Heavenly Void Fire and the Heavenly Void Fire technique. As expected, the system's reward arrived when he accepted Wang Luo as his disciple. Moreover, the reward was the cultivation technique that suited Wang Luo the most. Get up. Wang Luo raised his head and got up. He saw Chu Zan lazily sitting on the chair. There was no 7-colored divine light, and there was no figure with heaven-shaking might around him anymore. The scene just now almost seemed to have been an illusion. However, Wang Luo knew that it could not have been an illusion. His master looked young, but might be an old monster. "From today onward, you're my second disciple." Chu Zan called Ding Yu and Su Shaner out from the pocket dimension. "This is your senior brother, Ding Yu." He introduced them to Wang Luo and vice versa. Su Shaner was surprised. He took in a disciple again. Ding Yu sized up Wang Luo. Wang Luo was only at the 6th level of the profound realm, and he looked very down and out. Yet Ding Yu did not look down on him in the slightest. He must have had extraordinary talent if he managed to catch his master's eye. Su Shaner had already broken through to the 1st level of the Truth Realm, and Ding Yu had also broken through to the Unity Realm. With the help of the pocket dimension, the two of them cultivated extremely fast. Chu Zan looked at Wang Luo and said, "Your innate pill meridians were injured when you were young, causing them to be severed. This restricted your alchemy cultivation." Wang Luo's body trembled. He clenched his fists tightly and muttered, I see. He finally understood that the flaws in his body were due to this matter. When he thought about the scene of him being attacked when he was young, he was filled with hatred. This had to be avenged. "I have a pill that can reconnect your severed pill meridians. I also have a treasure that can reconnect your severed pill meridians. I can even personally help you reconnect your severed pill meridians. However, using these methods, the reconnected pill meridians will no longer be innate pill meridians. Your innate pill meridians will instead become postnatal pill meridians. Although your talent will improve, it still cannot be compared to your innate pill meridians." Wang Luo's eyes were bloodshot. He became even more resentful toward the mysterious attacker who had secretly injured him. He originally had innate pill meridians. After reconnecting it, it would only become postnatal pill meridians. How could he be satisfied with that? Chuzan continued, I have the heavenly void fire, which can allow you to reconnect your severed meridians. Not only will it preserve the quality of your innate pill meridians, it can even improve its potential further. However, reconnecting the meridians with the heavenly void fire is like burning your own body with fire and torturing yourself with it. To complete the reconnection process, you will have to suffer for 49 days, after which you can refine the heavenly void fire for your own use. If your will is not firm enough to withstand the pain of the heavenly void fire burning your body, your will collapse and you will die. Of course, if you can endure the torture of having your body burnt and refine the heavenly fire, the benefits are endless. You can choose. Wang Luo's gaze was resolute as he said, Master, I choose to use the heavenly void fire to reconnect my pill meridians. Have you thought it through? Although the void heaven flame can reconnect your meridians and retain their innate potential, if you can't pass its trial by fire, you will die and your Tao will disappear. Wang Luo took a deep breath and said, Master, I, Wang Luo, will either soar into the heavens and become unrivaled in the world, or I will disappear from the world soundlessly. I am not willing to live a mediocre life. Good, junior brother, I support you. Ding Yu clapped his hands and cheered. Chuzan nodded and said, in that case, I will teach you the heavenly void fire technique. He raised his hand and pointed his finger, and the first chapter of the heavenly void fire technique was passed to Wang Luo. After the latter reached the heaven realm, he would pass on the rest of the cultivation technique. Given his current cultivation realm, there was no way Wang Luo could digest the entire cultivation technique. Wang Luo's eyes were slightly closed as he comprehended the cultivation technique in his mind. He was extremely shocked. It was too powerful. What level of cultivation technique was this? Wang Luo was extremely excited. His choice had not been wrong. This was indeed a great opportunity for him. After Wang Luo had comprehended the initial steps of the cultivation technique and grasped how to reconnect the pill meridians, he started cultivating the heavenly void fire technique. A floating flame appeared atop Chuzan's hand. The flame did not seem to be particularly hot, but somehow one could sense the terrifying power contained inside the flame. When one's will touched the flame, it felt like it would be instantly incinerated. Looking at Wang Luo, Chuzan spoke again, you can still choose something else. This flame is extraordinary. Ding Yu and Su Shan'er's expressions turned solemn. The heavenly void fire was too terrifying. Just a strand of its aura was enough to burn their probing will. Wang Luo was only at the 6th level of the profound realm. How could he refine it? How could he endure the trial by fire? The heavenly void fire in Chuzan's hand was not complete. It was only a strand separated from the main flame. The heavenly void fire was not something that Wang Luo could refine in its entirety. Not to mention connecting pill meridians, even if he touched a strand of the main flame's aura, there would not even be ash left of his body. This strand of the heavenly void fire had been processed by Chuzan. If Wang Luo's willpower was firm enough, he could refine it. Although it was just a strand of the main flame, once it was refined and reconnected Wang Luo's pill meridians, it would be able to grow with him as his strength increased. This strand of heavenly void fire was enough for Wang Luo to reach the peak of his current major realm. Furthermore, with the heavenly void fire, he would be able to easily refine pills, which would be helpful to his alchemy cultivation. Wang Luo's gaze was resolute as he said, Master, I choose to refine the heavenly void fire. One look was enough to tell that the heavenly void fire was extraordinary. If he missed out on such a divine flame, how could he rise up? How could he take revenge? How could he stomp on the Wang family of the northern region in the future? How could he let off the woman who humiliated him and broke off the marriage engagement? Okay, then you can use this flame to reconnect your pill meridians. Chuzan waved his hand and sent Wang Luo into the pocket dimension. You can refine the heavenly void fire in this pocket dimension. Wang Luo was extremely shocked. In the blink of an eye, he appeared inside a pocket dimension. Everywhere he looked, the land was filled with spiritual medicines. Don't lose yourself in a daze. Focus and prepare. Reconnect the pill meridians. Chuzan's voice entered his ears and Wang Luo came back to his senses. He took a few deep breaths and sat cross-legged on the ground. Ding Yu and Su Shan'er also entered the pocket dimension and quietly looked at Wang Luo. Chuzan waved his hand and the strand of the heavenly void fire flew out and landed on Wang Luo's body. Ah! Wang Luo screamed in pain and was instantly engulfed by the flames. He was in so much pain that his face contorted. However, he still maintained his will and circulated the heavenly void fire technique, continuously refining and trying to tame the strand of the heavenly void fire. He tried to absorb them into his body to reconnect his pill meridians. The flames gradually contracted and entered Wang Luo's body. Su Shaner turned around and left, not daring to continue watching. That fellow's clothes were all gone and, now that the flames were inside his body instead of outside, his naked body would definitely be exposed. Wang Luo sat cross-legged on the ground. No flames could be seen on his body, but his entire body appeared like red-hot iron. A scorching aura spread out in all directions. His face was distorted, and his entire body was trembling. However, he still did not fall. He crazily circulated the heavenly void fire technique, slowly reconnecting the broken pill meridians while subduing and refining the strand of the heavenly void fire. Wang Luo felt that he was in an endless purgatory. There were several times when he felt that he could not hold on any longer. However, when he recalled the humiliation he had suffered, his hatred made him grit his teeth and persevere. I, Wang Luo, must make those who once looked down on me, laughed at me, abandoned me, and humiliated me look up to me in awe and endless regret. With this belief driving him forward, Wang Luo persisted unwaveringly. Chapter 100. No woman in my heart, alchemy is my god. Chu Zan paid close attention to Wang Luo's situation. As the fated person of an entire region, he should be able to endure this tiny bit of hardship, right? Whether or not he could obtain the system's cultivation boost reward depended on whether Wang Luo could subdue and refine the heavenly void fire. Once he subdued and refined the heavenly void fire, Wang Luo's strength would soar, and it was likely that his cultivation would directly break through to the next major realm. He might even break through from the 6th level of the profound realm to the 6th level of the spirit realm. If he broke through so quickly and refined the heavenly void fire, the system's reward should be quite generous, right? Chu Zan's thoughts were occupied by the potential reward momentarily, after which he glanced at Ding Yu and muttered in his heart, should I get a peerless fierce sword and let him try and subdue it? However, Ding Yu had already contributed quite a bit to his cultivation boost reward, so even if he subdued the peerless fierce sword, the system probably would not give him another reward. Chu Zan could only give up on this idea. He had decided that, in the future, he would have to give his new disciples some hardships when he took them in. Wang Luo had been in the pocket dimension for 49 days, and not much time had passed in the outside world. Chu Zan watched for a while, and noticed that the scorching aura on Wang Luo's body had already begun converging. His distorted face gradually turned calm. His cultivation aura began to rise. His pill meridians had already been reconnected. As expected of a fated person, he had successfully subdued and refined the heavenly void fire. Ding Yu saw that Wang Luo had already passed the crisis stage, so he went back to continue his closed-door cultivation session, striving to break through to the truth realm as soon as possible. It was rumored that one could not reach the Emperor realm in the southern region. Ding Yu was confident that, as long as he broke through to the peak of the truth realm, he would definitely be the top master in the southern region. He could kill the top genius of 9 Swords Mountain with one sword strike. The days where he would be able to hold his head high were not far away. Moreover, with his master's methods, it would not be impossible for him to break through to the Emperor realm. The fire around Wang Luo's body erupted. Scorching hot flames enveloped him, turning his entire body into a ball of fire. His realm also broke through to the spirit realm. Under your guidance, your disciple has broken through realms quickly. With great perseverance, he subdued and refined the heavenly void fire. You have been rewarded with 100 years worth of cultivation and the completed 100 tempering divine technique. The system's reward had arrived. 100 years worth of cultivation. As expected, as long as he accepted the fated person and that person quickly broke through to the next realm, he would receive the system's reward. Chu Zan then chose to receive the 100 years worth of cultivation. He started to break through to the 4th level of the Supreme Realm. The reward of 100 years worth of cultivation was enough for Chu Zan to break through to the 6th level of the Supreme Realm. The completed 100 tempering divine technique was an extremely powerful divine soul technique, eternal and immortal. The divine soul that was cultivated using the completed 100 tempering divine technique could live forever, and rise again and recover even if only a wisp of one's divine soul remained. Chu Zan was currently only at the 6th level of the Supreme Realm, but the power of his divine soul was no weaker than a 9th level Supreme Realm cultivator. In fact, in terms of the tenacity of his divine soul, it was already comparable to the divine soul of a heaven realm expert. From this, it could be seen how powerful the 100 tempering divine technique was. After Chu Zan received the complete 100 tempering divine technique, he discovered that this divine soul technique was a combination of offense and defense, and the way it used the divine soul was extremely mysterious. Among the divine soul's secret techniques provided were the soul clone technique, the soul substitution technique, and so on. Chu Zan could not use most of the divine soul's secret techniques. For example, he could not use the soul clone technique. He could not leave the small courtyard. The soul substitution technique, on the other hand, was nothing more than a technique to use part of one's soul to die in place of his divine soul. The original divine soul would be hidden from the enemy's perception. Wang Luo broke through to the 6th level of the spirit realm in one breath, after which he stopped. After consolidating his cultivation for a few days, he excitedly returned to the small courtyard. He respectfully knelt in front of Chu Zan and kowtowed 3 times. Your disciple thanks Master for this immense favor. Without Chu Zan, Wang Luo would not be where he was today. Chu Zan was a god in his heart. You possess great perseverance. I didn't misjudge you. Chu Zan was very gratified. After all, Wang Luo had contributed 100 years' worth of cultivation to him and was a good disciple. Wang Luo was expelled by the Wang family, and he was also forced to break off his marriage engagement. He had been humiliated and had been holding back the anger in his heart and the desire to take revenge. As a budding alchemist, he was bound to be very popular. With Wang Luo's newfound talent, it was only a matter of time before he was able to concoct a divine-grade pill. At that time, there would be countless people who would seek his help, as well as plenty of beautiful women. While the possibility of Wang Luo becoming a simp was not high, Chu Zan felt that it was necessary to give him some advice and instill the correct values in him. Whether it was his male disciples, or his female disciples in the future, none of them could be simps. Thinking that, Chu Zan said, the path of alchemy is full of endless bewitchment, flattery, and the temptation of rare treasures. Among them, beauty is the most difficult to guard against. Wang Luo listened respectfully. This was his master speaking to him. After all, you must remember that there should be no woman in your heart. Alchemy is your god. You must remember that you are not to be bewitched by beauty, not to be moved by beauty, and not to be moved by love. If you are moved by beauty or moved by love, your heart will no longer be focused on the path of alchemy, and then your path of alchemy will come to an end. Since ancient times, those who have been obsessed with beauty and those who have been infatuated with love will eventually die for love. They will die for love, and then they will perish from the world. You must remember this. Wang Luo's heart trembled. He said solemnly, I will always remember the teachings of my master. I will always remember that there should be no woman in my heart. Alchemy will naturally become my god. I will never be bewitched by beauty. You are a promising young man. Chu Zan was greatly gratified. The more Wang Luo understood this, the further he would go on the path of alchemy. When there was no woman in his heart, and once alchemy was his god, he would naturally become a godlike alchemy master. You walk the path of alchemy. After refining the heavenly void fire, you will naturally become proficient in alchemy and won't be too weak in battle. As my disciple, your strength can't be weak. As Chu Zan spoke, he took out an alchemy furnace and a cattail leaf fan. Since you managed to refine the heavenly void fire, you will naturally be able to get this furnace and cattail leaf fan to recognize you as their master. I will bestow them upon you. Regardless of whether it was the pill cauldron or the fan, they were both divine artifacts. Wang Luo's strength was naturally insufficient to use divine artifacts. However, he was an alchemist and the pill cauldron was meant for alchemists. It was not a divine artifact used for battle. As long as he could get the cauldron to recognize him as its master, he would be able to use it to refine pills without any problems. Furthermore, Wang Luo possessed the heavenly void fire. This flame was extraordinary and was capable of fueling the divine pill cauldron. The cattail leaf fan was compatible with the pill furnace. It did have some offensive power, and could be used to create wind and spread fire. Divine artifacts were also divided into different types and grades. Some divine artifacts could be used by those at the profound realm, but could not be fully unleashed. Still, armed with such a divine artifact, one could almost certainly sweep away those at the same level. Thank you, Master. Wang Luo was extremely excited. A divine-grade pill furnace. The Wang family's guardian pill furnace was only a semi-divine artifact. Yet this semi-divine artifact had allowed the Wang family to stand tall in the northern region and become one of its largest clans. Chu Zan threw out 2 more manuals and said, this is the myriad elixir scripture and the myriad spirit scripture. The manuals were a copy of the Myriad Elixir Scripture and the Myriad Spirit Scripture. Wang Luo opened the manual and took a look at the words and pictures inside it. After just a cursory glance, he was shocked by the alchemy techniques and pill formulas inside. Moreover, the manual itself was a supreme treasure. How much content was recorded in such a small manual? Unless one had great means, it was impossible to have written out such a supreme resource for alchemists.